afternoon and welcome. We're going to come to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017 convening of the Baltimore City Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. A few house rules before we get underway. First, if you have a cell phone, a pager, anything that makes any kind of audible, electronically generated sound, plays a ringtone, a beep, a chime, etc. We ask at a minimum that you please turn those devices to a vibrate only, if not off position. Similarly, to the extent that you need to have a conversation with someone, we ask that you please take that conversation out the double doors to your rear. The reason for those rules is pretty simple and straightforward. You'll note that there are a number of microphones which are arrayed around us up here, and those microphones are all very sensitive, not only for the purpose of amplification, but also for the purpose of recording these proceedings. And cell phones, pagers, conversations, and the like, not just don't just disrupt the general conduct of these proceedings, but also interrupt the recording of these proceedings as well. Similarly, those of you who are seated forward of the wall that's above you, if you turn, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 video cameras which are mounted on the wall up there behind you, and there are 1, 2 video cameras which are mounted on the wall up here behind us. These proceedings are being videoed and streamed live on the city's cable access, I guess the website for the city's cable access channel, as well as recorded for later broadcast on that public access channel, and also stored for all posterity on the city's YouTube channel. So cell phones, pagers, conversations, and the like disrupt that process as well. We will be voting at the end of the day, and you're certainly more than welcome to stick around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose. But if you've got other plans for your afternoon, that certainly is understandable. You can call into the zoning board office in the morning and find out how we ruled in your case. If you take out pen and paper, I'll read this number off a couple of times. But the number for the zoning board office is 410-396-4301. Again, that number is 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written notice of the outcome of your case, which should be forthcoming in about 3 or 4 weeks, before you will be able to obtain your permit. We certainly ask that you please not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining all of your proper permits. If you haven't already done so, if you're here in opposition to any case today, we ask that you please come forward and sign in on a sign-in sheet. It's being held up right now by Mr. French. The signing sheet allows us generally to know not just which cases have opposition, but also allows us to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I just referred to. So additionally, there are some cases today which have been postponed and which won't be going forward today. So if you are here in reference to any of those cases, or if during the proceeding your case gets postponed, we need to know who you are and how to contact you to let you know when that case will be going forward if it does not go forward today. The procedure for when the cases are called is that the applicant will come forward and they'll stand to our left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to our right or your left. Once everyone's up here, we'll get you all sworn in, and then once that's completed, we'll turn to the applicant to present their side of things, to tell us basically what is involved in the appeal, what's being requested, what use is being proposed, present any documents and testimony they would like to offer in support of their arguments and positions, and respond to any questions which the board may have. Once the applicant has finished with their presentation, we'll then turn to the opposition, if any, to extend to them the same ability to present documents, testimony, etc., in support of their arguments in opposition to the appeal. Once the opposition is completed, we'll then turn to the applicant again to respond to any points which might have been brought up by their opposition, and then to offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth and necessarily delaying things into the evening any longer than is necessary. We'll generally be calling the cases in the order in which they appear on our docket after we first dispense with some preliminary matters. First, as I stated, there are some matters which have been postponed and or withdrawn and will not be going forward today. So if you're here in reference to any of these cases, please make sure that you have signed in on the signing sheet so that you'll be notified when and if they do go forward. Of course, the withdrawn cases won't be going forward, but the postponed cases will. 2017-159, 701 through 725 Rapola Street. That matter has been withdrawn. 2017-165, 5800 Chemical Road. That case has been postponed. 2017-169, 2800 East Eager Street. That matter has been postponed as well. So if you're here in opposition to any of those cases, please make sure that you signed in so that we can let you know when they are going forward. Next, these are the cases which are on our consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of those cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed the files in these cases, and the board has determined that we can approve these appeals on a consent basis. We're going to call the consent cases together as a group. If any case is called, we ask that you please come forward. Try to stay in the order in which you're called. The first person will line up there. Subsequent people will line up down the dais in front of them. And then once they're all up here, we'll get you sworn in as a group, and then we'll call each case in turn. You'll be given the opportunity at that time to offer any information you would like to have added to the record. First case on the consent agenda is 2016-201, 5100 Eastern Avenue, Ryan Deere. Next will be 2017-151, 3601 Garrison Boulevard, Herbert Burgunder. In 2017-154, 3602 Elm Avenue, Richard Packey. Then we'll have 2017-156, 2602 Greenmount Avenue, Marcus Bradford. 2017-162, 103 Scott Street, Anthony Jacobs. And 2017-172, 522 South Streeper Street, Matt Nofel. Those are all the cases on our consent agenda. All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands, can you sworn, please?
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, calling first case, 2016-201, 5100 Eastern Avenue, Ryan Deere.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, sir. You're Mr. Deere?
Yes, I am.
All right, and we have this as an application to install a rooftop telecom facility at this location with 12 antennas and equipment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning board?
Thank you. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. This property is located in the Francis Scott Key Medical Center and Hospital Planned Unit Development Area. For that reason, the department recommends approval of this application subject to these conditions. The exposed portions of antennas and related equipment, as seen from the ground, must be painted to match the building to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. The antennas and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in the plans and elevations submitted to planning, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect as specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Deere, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to you?
Yes, they are acceptable.
All right. Is there any further information you'd like to have added to the record at this time?
Nothing additional, no.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve the appeal. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up, 2017-151, 3601 Garrison Boulevard, Herbert Burgunder.
Good afternoon, Herbert Burgunder with Mr. Wazana, who's the principal of the property on Garrison.
Afternoon, gentlemen. We have this as an application to continue to use as 12 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Burgunder, is there anything further you would like to have added to the record at this time?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, 2016-154, 3602 Elm Avenue, Richard Packey.
I'm Julie Kloster. I'm representing Richard Packey today.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Cluster. We have this as an application to add cosmetic tattooing to beauty shop. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Hamden Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area. That plan does not prevent this proposed use. However, the department recommends disapproval of tattooing as a principal use at this location and recommends that approval of this application be granted as accessory to a beauty salon or similar establishment subject to these conditions. Cosmetic tattooing occurs only during normal business hours of the beauty shop or similar establishment. All tattooing is done by appointment only with no walk-ins, and no exterior signage advertises availability of tattooing on the premises. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and just to be clear, the recommendation from the planning department is that the use here be, that is the cosmetic tattooing, be only an accessory use. That is that the primary use of the property would have to continue to be the beauty salon, so the tattooing would have to be secondary, in both in area and extent to the beauty salon. Do you believe that is consistent with what's intended here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anything further you would like to add? You would like to have added to the record this time?
No, thank you.
Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Next, 2017-156, 2602 Greenmount Avenue, Marcus Bradford.
Yes, I'm Marcus Bradford, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
We have this as an application to use as a carry-out restaurant with outdoor table service. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Yes, thank you. The Department of Planning recommends approval of this application subject to these conditions. A minimum of 6 feet of the sidewalk must remain clear and unobstructed for pedestrian use. The capacity of the outdoor seating area will be not more than 3 tables and 12 patrons. The tables will be limited to those that can seat 2 or 4 patrons and are to be kept against the wall of the building. There will be no outdoor bar, no outdoor music, jukebox, or other form of entertainment, and all patrons must be seated for dining and served by wait staff. Thank you.
All right, sir. Are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
Yes, well, I have 2 letters of support, one from Strong City, Baltimore, and one from the Hartwood Community Association.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it. I'm all done.
All right, thank you. Don't walk away just yet. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very much, sir.
2017-162, 103 Scott Street, Anthony Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have this as an application to construct a 3-story side addition at this location. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jacobs, anything further you would like to have added to the record this time?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
All right, great. Have a good one.
Take care.
Thank-
Last 2017-172, 522 South Streeper Street, Matt Nofel.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this an application to construct a 1st floor rear addition, 2nd floor rear overhanging addition, and rooftop deck at this location. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Nofel, anything further you would like to have added to the record this time?
No, sir.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Okay, next we're going to address the remainder of our docket, which will include cases where opposition is signed in. Frequently, we found that opposition is the result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication amongst the parties, and it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to enter into a dialogue between themselves, as obviously if there are 2 parties in a dispute and those parties ask the board to resolve their dispute, one of those 2 parties is bound to go away disappointed with the result. So this is your opportunity to avoid that unhappy fate. going to call out the cases where opposition has signed in and ask whether or not the parties have had any dialogue. They've spoken about whatever differences they may have, and whether or not they would like to have one or continue to have one at this time. If so, you can just step out the double doors to your rear and have that discussion, and if they're fruitful, just come back in and let us know. And if not, do the same thing, just come back in, have a seat, and we'll call you in turn. First case where there's opposition is 2017-119, 223 through 225 Park Avenue, Abraham Hurdle.
We've tried to resolve this, Chairman.
Okay.
We're to go forward.
All right, have a seat. 2017-149 and 2017-150, 626 Belnord Avenue and 628 Belnord Avenue. Okay. Oh, okay. Have you folks spoken?
No, I'm not aware of who the person pursuing the appeal.
Okay. Would you like to talk now?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a quick conversation.
Sure. Just let us know when you're ready to go forward. 2017-153, 1701 through 1703 Pumphrey Street, Patrick Richardson. Okay. Sending that. And have you folks spoken? No. Would you like to speak now? No. No? Okay. You sure? Okay, have a seat. We'll go forward then.
Sir, do you have a question? Do you have a question?
I have one other that I think might be in opposition, so I'll wait.
Oh.
Nope, that's the only one.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right. Mr. Fredel, we'll skip that one. We'll call 2017-160, 1840 Goff Street, Evelise Fernandez. Okay. Afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Clara Bailey. I'm representing Ms. Melendez.
Okay. Ms. Bailey, we have this as an application to continue to use a portion of the first floor as a grocery store and add a delicatessen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You can raise your right hand and be sworn, please, ma'am.
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We have staff reports?
Yeah, one report from planning.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is being used for a non-conforming use in an R8 district. The application material available to the Planning Department did not indicate whether there would be an expansion of the non-conforming use floor area, and therefore the department has no objection to the application, provided that non-conforming use of the property as a grocery store and delicatessen would not result in an increase of the floor area beyond 25% of what is now occupied or used when the portion of the premises became non-conforming. The department also notes that any new signage related to the approved use must meet zoning code requirements for signs in a residential district. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Bailey, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
Okay, inside the grocery store, we already sell lunch meat, just sliced. In the same area, we will also be preparing the sandwiches, so we're not using any more of the area than we already have.
Okay. And besides the sandwiches, would there be anything else that people would be able to order?
No, just cold sandwiches. There's already pre-packed food inside the store also, so there wouldn't be anything else besides groceries and everything else.
And this drawing here that was submitted along with the application that reflects the current layout of the store?
Yes.
Okay. And there's not going to be any alteration to that floor area?
No.
All right. Any further? Thank you.
Thank you.
2017-164, 3434 through 3462 Wilkins Avenue. Sean Casserly. Afternoon.
Hi.
You're Mr. Casserly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and sir, we have this as an application to add live entertainment and dancing to the existing restaurant located in the portion known as 3450 Wilkins Avenue within a shopping center. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hand and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do we have staff reports?
Yes. We have a letter. The Violetville and St. Agnes Community Association supports the live entertainment permit request at Kibbe's Restaurant for use of 3450 Wilkins Avenue. Kibbe's Restaurant and Lounge has been a productive business member of the Violetville and St. Agnes community for over 8 decades, and we hope they will continue for decades more. The community does not have any issues or concerns with the live entertainment Mr. Casserly intends to provide in his establishment. Then we have planning's report.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this particular property is part of a larger commercial area, and that the application does provide an adequate description of the types of live entertainment to be offered. Also, that this property is sufficiently distant from residential properties that it would not impose undue noise issues for the neighborhood. The department recommends approval of the application subject to these conditions in addition to any conditions the board might establish. That the property will continue to provide off-street parking sufficient for 185 patrons of live entertainment events on Friday and Saturday nights. That a copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on the live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. All right, sir, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. So why don't you tell us what is being proposed here?
Basically, we want to do karaoke / DJ dancing on Fridays and Saturdays nights, and trivia on Thursday nights.
Okay.
I don't know if trivia's part of live entertainment or not.
And I see that it's located inside of a shopping center, that's correct?
Correct.
Okay. And are there certain designated spaces that are made available for your establishment, or is it the entire parking lot can be used by
Well,
whomever?
After 9 o'clock, almost all businesses in there are closed other than us and
Okay.
7-Eleven, who's kind of come and go traffic.
All right. That was going to be my next question, was the hours kept by the other operators there. And where's the 7-Eleven in relation to your?
All the way at the corner by Unetta Avenue.
Okay.
Kibbe's occupies about 50% of the shopping center, or 35 to 40% of the shopping center.
All right. And the live entertainment and dancing would all occur in the banquet room? is that
Banquet room,
correct?
yes.
Can't quite tell from the drawing here, but where's the front of the establishment?
Do you want me to point it out on yours?
Sure. Okay.
They come in and then they split. They can go in the dining room, they can go in the banquet bar.
Okay. So they enter into this center area
It's
and
like
then
a
they go
foyer there,
either right to go dining or left to go into the banquet area.
Correct.
hours you're looking for live entertainment are?
Generally, it's
We got
9 to 1:30.
9 to 1:30
Correct,
on both Friday and Saturday nights.
correct.
All right, now you've got also down here Thursday trivia if applies. What's
Yeah,
that?
I didn't know if that applies to live entertainment or not, so that's why I said.
Okay, why don't you tell us about kind of how the trivia goes?
Trivia is just a DJ kind of guy comes in and asks historical questions and people answer, and pretty much that's it. They,
Okay, and where does that, I'm sorry?
I said they keep score.
yeah, keep score
And where does that, which part does that take place in?
in the banquet bar
In the
room.
banquet area as well? Okay, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 2017-167, 1909 Bank Street, Pensacola. Okay. What's your name, sir?
Idan Sameret.
Okay, and Mr. Summer, we have this an application to construct a 3-story rear addition and rooftop deck at this location, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, you can raise your hand, your right hand and be sworn, please, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, do you have staff reports?
I have nothing.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Semrat, what can you tell us about what's being proposed here?
We basically increasing the size of the house, adding a second floor addition, side and rear. The house is a bottleneck shape, so we're increasing the size on the second floor on the side to cantilever the first floor. Same thing on the third floor. And then the first floor, we basically squaring the house off. The house has like an odd-shaped addition that was done probably in the 70s. So we're just squaring off the back. So the first floor, we still have the sally port in the rear, and then the second and the third floor, we're going to cantilever. And then we're going up to a rooftop deck above the third floor.
Okay. So on the first floor here, is the only part of the footprint that you're expanding is this one little piece here,
Correct.
as you said, to square it up.
Yes.
And then the remainder of the addition will, I guess, overhang the existing footprint plus that part that's getting filled in on the first floor.
Well, I don't go that quite far. If you look at the plans, my second floor doesn't even go past that location. Where I extend that 11-foot one on the first floor, I don't even go past that on the second floor. So the second and the third
I
floor,
see.
we're going to stop short.
Yep. So it doesn't even go over that part.
Yes, probably the actual footprint expansion is like 40 square feet.
All right. Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
2017-173, 139 East North Avenue, Max Dolphin.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Afternoon, sir. You, Mr. Dolphin?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have this in application to use the premises to house 3 dwelling units as a multiple family attached dwelling, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, if you can raise your right hand and be sworn, please, sir.
Raise your right hand, please.
I can. It's against my religion.
You can affirm, you don't have to swear.
I affirm.
Do you
Well,
swear-
he has
do-
to give
do
you
swear
the-
or affirm that the testimony you will give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Do we have staff reports?
Nothing?
Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Thank you.
I thought I had that wrong. Sorry.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dolphin, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here, sir?
It used to be 3 units, the property back in '03, and then somebody applied for a shelter home. It was never used as that, so we're just trying to revert it to the original zoning. It was, I believe, for like 30 years.
Okay. Was there any interior alteration of the property?
No.
So it's currently as it was last used?
Correct.
There was a city council ordinance passed in 2002 for a homeless shelter limited to 13 persons. And a permit was issued to that effect, but you're saying that never actually was implemented.
Well, they've never done any work or any structural alteration, so everything was still laid out as 3 dwelling units.
So they did not remove the kitchens from the second and third floor?
Everything was all existing, the water heaters, the furnaces.
Okay.
All right. Any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
What happens next?
I'm sorry?
What happens next?
You wait for a decision. Thanks. Still out. 2017-178, 6200 Wallace Avenue, Lisa Junker. Inasmuch as I see Mr. Burgunder, not Ms. Junker.
Yes.
Mr. Burgunder, I'll assume that you're representing the applicant in this case?
Yes.
All right. And we have this as an application to construct a 1-story rear addition onto a single-family detached dwelling, is that correct?
That is correct.
If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sir. Do you have any staff reports?
Yes, we have 4 letters indicating no opposition from the residents of 6202 Wallace Avenue, 3505 Pinckney Avenue, 3507 Pinckney Road, and another one for 3507 Pinckney Road. Does planning have a report?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Burgunder, the floor is yours.
Thank you. With great pleasure here with Mr. and Mrs. Snyder, also with Robert Rosenfeld and Lisa Hertzmark from Colbert Matz Rosenfeld Engineers. If I may proceed with just a bit of an introduction and maybe by way of a bit of a proffer as well, I think would expedite matters. But then if you have questions specifically for Mr. and Mrs. Snyder or for their engineers, I'd be happy to take those questions as well. We did seek to have the support of the neighbors. And just for the record, I would indicate that while the letters originally it said no objection, a number of the letters actually crossed out the word I have no objection and wrote I support. So we were glad to have that. Mr. and Mrs. Snyder worked very hard to talk to their neighbors to seek their support. Just by way of a proffer, Mr. and Mrs. Snyder are relatively longtime residents of this property at the corner of Wallace Avenue and Pinckney Road in the heart of the Orthodox Jewish community in Baltimore. They have 7 children. So with 7 children, they could use a little more space in their house. Not to say that all of the space is just practical and shelter-oriented. They do plan to have an enclosed swimming pool in the back of their house as well. For religious purposes, modesty is very important to them, and having that indoor facility certainly, while nice for the children, and their family that would come visit is also supports and is consistent with their needs for modesty in bathing and in swimming. And so I would also say that the property is a bit unique in the neighborhood in that it was the subject of a prior subdivision of the neighborhood, which is a little bit unusual, as well as topographically. It is also unique in that it slopes downward toward the front, and I can have the engineer address that if you would like. Ms. Hertzmark?
I can speak to that.
Get your name, you gotta get to the microphone. Your last name I don't have.
My name is Eliza Hertzmark,
You gotta spell it for me if you don't mind.
Hertzmark. So as we can show the photo of the front of the building here. This shows that the property slopes down in the front towards the street. Colbert Metz Rosenfeld also did a field run survey that we can submit here, which shows the topography in front, and you can see those are 2-foot contours. So there's a much steeper slope in the front than in the back. So for an addition of this size, putting it in the front yard would not be feasible. It wouldn't be able to be at grade with the first floor of the house. So the only location for this addition is in the rear of the house.
And then, Ms. Hertzmark, if also I could show you a photograph. You've been to the property on several occasions?
Yes, I have.
And I'd like to show you a photograph of the property. I'm looking for the right one. And does this photograph represent the exterior of the property? And does that show that the house leads up? There appear to be 2 retaining walls
Yes.
leading up to the front of the property, which show the slope in the front. Is that consistent with your?
Yes, that is what it looks like.
And is this house unique in that, having that type of slope toward the front yard of the neighborhood?
I think that one definitely, it's the corner property and it slopes much more than the adjacent properties on that street.
Okay. And let's show you an area, a second photograph. If we could have this photograph entered into evidence. I guess we would have the topography map marked as Petitioner's Exhibit Number 1. And
Okay.
this marked as Exhibit 2, please. I'm going to show you a picture of the rear of the house. And is that consistent with your recollection of the property? You have to
Yes, it
answer
is.
the word. And is that area flat and able to accommodate the addition?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is marked in this, or shown in this photograph, is a patio. Is that where the addition would come out to?
It is in the same location as the addition. I have not measured the patio, but it looks about the same.
Proposed. Okay. We'd ask that this be entered into evidence as Petitioner's Exhibit 3. Okay. And then if I could have a couple questions for Mr. Snyder, if the board will entertain. And so, Mr. Snyder, how long have you lived in the neighborhood?
In the neighborhood, 24 years. In this particular location, 12 years, 12 and a half years.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Michael.
Michael. Snyder's, Snider. And Mr. Snyder, you seek to put an addition onto your house?
Yes.
And what will be accommodated in that addition? It will be the family room?
Family room, pool, and mixer.
Okay. Okay. And the family room is going to accommodate your children?
Correct.
Okay. And you have 7 children, is that correct?
So far.
Okay. I don't know if we need to ask Mrs. Snyder a question, but and you've lived in this neighborhood, you said, for a long time, and you're committed to the neighborhood. Are you involved in some other projects in the neighborhood?
The board is familiar with other projects that we brought. I believe we have a significant building area going on, 20 townhomes for people that we moved here from New York, a synagogue that we've discussed a few times, and it's right around the block from us, so we're interested in investing in the neighborhood.
And you're committed to this neighborhood?
Very much so.
Okay. And if because of the topography, the slope of the property in the front, is there any other place that could accommodate this addition to your house?
I don't believe the roof will support.
Okay. And this space is needed. There'd be practical difficulty or unreasonable hardship to you in accommodating your family in your current home if you were not able to have this addition. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not sure if the board has any other questions. No. Okay. If there are no other questions, then we'll conclude. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck to you. 2017-181, 418 South Clinton Street, Richard Pugh.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this an application to add a restaurant with accessory outdoor table service to existing first floor tavern. Is that correct?
Correct.
You can raise your right hand and be sworn, please, sir.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do you have staff reports?
One report from planning.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this site is zoned R8, a residential zone. Also noted that this property is last authorized for use as a tavern, as a non-conforming use in the R8 district. The definition of outdoor table service contained in the zoning code refers to it as accessory to a restaurant, and this property is currently listed as used for a tavern and therefore not eligible for accessory outdoor table service. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Pugh, why don't you tell us about the restaurant here? Is it up and operating?
Absolutely.
Okay. As the planning department indicated, there's some confusion in the record as to how the establishment intends to operate. That is that outdoor table service is permitted as an accessory use to a restaurant, but is not permitted as an accessory use to a tavern. So why don't you tell us about the operation of the establishment?
Thank you. Excuse me. When we purchased the building, we had every intention to operate as a restaurant, and it just so happened to have a BD7 license existing. And when we renovated the property, we renovated it for use as a restaurant, full hood system, grill, everything inside, prep kitchen, storage, everything. We've been open approximately 18 months now as a restaurant. We've gotten very good reviews, been written up in Baltimore Magazine, City Paper, Style Magazine as a restaurant. We operate primarily as a restaurant, and we do at least 55-56% food to beer, wine, liquor. So we are also adjacent to the property that used to be the old Hausner's restaurant, which is now an apartment building or in construction. And we do operate as a restaurant, so we do intend to use the outdoor table seating for restaurant use.
Okay. All right. So then you'd be willing to amend your application as an application to add restaurant with to be a restaurant with accessory outdoor table service and delete the tavern reference?
Correct. I think the application, there was an error. We had only ever attempted to add accessory outdoor table seating to the existing use. I didn't mean it to say tavern. We operate as a restaurant.
Okay. With that revision, Mr. French, would the planning department be satisfied with the operation of the establishment as a restaurant with accessory outdoor table service?
We would, provided the standard conditions that the planning department requests apply to the outdoor seating area. Minimum of 6 feet of sidewalk must remain clear and unobstructed for pedestrian use. Don't know about the size of the tables, either those that seat 2 or 4 patrons, to be kept against the wall of the building. No outdoor bar, no outdoor music, jukebox, or other form of entertainment. And all patrons seated for dining and served by wait staff.
Okay, and are those conditions acceptable to you?
Absolutely.
And you've got a drawing that you submitted here. Looks like these are 30-inch tables?
Correct.
Okay, and they've got 4 seats per table?
Correct.
All right, looks like they are alongside the Clinton Street side. I guess that would be the front?
Correct.
All right. And as far as distance, you've got shown 104 inches, so it's going on 9 feet?
Remaining, yes.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much.
May I also submit the copy of the support from the Highlandtown Community Association?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Anything further?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. File 2017-153, 1701 through 1703 Pumphrey Street, Patrick Richardson. afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Richardson, we have this as an application to construct a new storage/contractor shop with second-story mezzanine that will consist of an office area and storage at this location. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands if you're sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do we have staff reports?
Have nothing?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Richardson, why don't you tell us what's being proposed here?
We're basically proposing a warehouse building that has some light fabrication in it. The business that's going to operate there does all their work out on ships. So they basically do some light fabrication in their shop, preparing things to go out. All the work then is done out on the ships, and there's also going to be an office there. We've put the building in the location that it is, mostly for the ability for vehicles to be able to come in, unload materials, and go out again. There's also a fence that's on the back side of the property that they want to maintain access to. That's why it's pushed up to where it is. And that's pretty much it. All the stuff that's there now is all sea containers, which will all be removed.
Okay.
And I think that's about it.
Now, all of the light fabrication work, as you said, that all would be done indoors?
Inside, yes, sir. All materials and all the work is going to be done inside of the building. There will be no outside work.
Okay. How about any materials? Anything going to be stored outside?
No.
All right. You said that the current storage containers and equipment that's shown in the picture, all that's going to be removed?
Well, that will be removed, yes.
And I think we discussed this, but the reason for the structure being located in the proposed location shown in the drawing?
There's a fence that's to the south there on the, and I have a gate
Okay.
at the bottom.
Which direction?
There, so
Here?
they want to be able to, gate there, they want to be able to get out, so they've moved it up to be closer to the front and then left space off the side so that they could maintain the building.
Okay. And where would the gate be accessed from?
Well, if they,
Timothy Cooper. They have an agreement with the owner of the adjacent property to utilize the gate to access that facility, that location, to make easier access out to Hollowbird Avenue.
Okay, so it's going to be across the neighboring property?
Correct.
All right. And when the vehicles enter in, they're going to go where to make their deliveries and pickups?
The primary entrance of the facility is going to be off of Pumphrey Street.
Okay.
The other gate would be if they have a longer vehicle that the turn out to Pumphrey Street is harder to make, they would then take it through the adjacent gate to the south.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Sir, your name?
My name's Jerry Duncan. I'm representing Eastbourne Avenue, Pumphrey Street, and Brown Avenue. I have 4 other residential people with me here today, and our main concern is the noise that's being made from this place. They have a barge that sits. They work on barges outside. There is no structure containing this barge. They use generators for their power, although Hollowbird Metal has real electricity. They use generators to keep the neighbors. I mean, this runs from early in the morning till in the evening, these generators. This is what they're using for their power source, to sand down these barges outside. This is a residential neighborhood. The residents basically surround, almost in a U, where their building is. Brown Avenue Pumphrey Street. This is where they're bringing most of the materials in, through Pumphrey Street. They say Holabird Avenue, but most of their stuff comes in through Pumphrey Street, which is a heavily residential area. The noise is unbelievable. You can't think, you can't watch your television. I'm a former United States Marine. The noise was so loud one day that my honorable discharge fell off the wall, smashing the glass. I've had Baltimore City Police out. They've told them they cannot use generators. Why aren't they using the power from Holabird Avenue? We don't even know what the name of this company really is. If you look on the computer, it says Holabird Avenue / Deverak and Sons. However, if you look at the pictures here on the fence, they have Marcone Engineering. Excuse me. Now, there was a piece of property next door to the company, and they own that. And that's directly next door to their company on Pumphrey Street. However, that piece of property was zoned residential. There was a home on it years ago that caught on fire, and it's a residential piece of property. When they first moved in 2 years ago, they tried to obtain that piece of property. They wanted to move the fence line from their company back 22 feet and take over part of this residential property, which they do own, but it's still owned residential, and they're a company. So the commission, I contacted, and so did some of the other neighbors, the Construction and Building Commission completely shut the work down. They shut it down. They said you cannot build. You could build a house on it, but you can't build another warehouse or structure. They wanted to put up a warehouse-like structure on this property that was zoned residential.
Okay, is that
Okay.
separate from what's being proposed today?
Well, let me explain to you what they did. This goes to character, too. They posted signs prior to doing this, asking all of the neighbors to please move their cars via the Baltimore City Police Department. That's what the sign said. I could see where somebody painted over the dates and everything on the signs, and I contacted Baltimore City Police Department. They ran a check on these signs. They were stolen off a construction site. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems going on here. Another thing that they do constantly that upsets the neighbors, and this is aside from the noise, when anybody cuts their grass, they weed whack with a weed whacker. Okay, most people do. They take a blowtorch. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and they blowtorch the grass around the perimeter of their property. There are power lines above the fence line of this power lines that power our electricity. The fire department came out not on one occasion, but on 2 occasions, and told them you cannot use a burning torch to burn grass when you have power lines directly above. Why aren't you guys using weed whackers? Why aren't you using the things that everybody else uses? And so the second time they came out, one of their men argued with the main guy. I guess he was the chief or whatever, and he said, look, if you're going to keep arguing with me, I can fine you or you can stop this immediately, and they stopped. But I mean, this is the kind of thing we're putting up with. Noise, belligerence, you cannot talk with them, you can't meet common ground with them, and it's just, it's out. And the other thing is the structure that they want to build is going to devaluate the price of the homes in this area. There is no way we're going to get what we should get if we were to sell our house tomorrow morning when they put this double structure with a mezzanine up. We're not going to get what we should get for our homes. I don't think anybody in this room would like that. I have 12 signatures along with these 4 people that showed up with me today. And let me show you this. This is the grass that I'm speaking of with the field next door. Why would a company that wants to improve their property by building a double mezzanine structure let the grass get this? They're trying to improve on something. Can I? And yet the grass, this is the grass, you should look at this. This is how high the grass is on the property that they own. Look at this.
Okay.
They posted signs, say parking at your own risk. There's a place called Superior Paint Company directly across from them. And these are very lovely people, by the way. They come in, they're quiet, they respect the neighbors. They're very, very good people, decent, good, people. They posted these signs on their fence because Superior Paint parks along Pumphrey Street. These men come in the morning, they take vans out to paint, but they leave their cars parked along Pumphrey Street. They put these signs up to intimidate the men from parking on Pumphrey Street. I don't believe that they should be issued a permit for anything at all.
Okay, so that we can be clear, the property here is located this is adjacent to Hollywood Avenue.
The front, sir, only the front.
Getting to it. It's set back a little bit. It's on Pumphrey, and the cross street is Imla Street. The zoning boundary for the property cuts along the back of the property. On the other side of the boundary, it's R5. The property is located within a B31 zoning district. The application here is to construct a new storage contractor shop with second-story mezzanine with an office and some storage. The use as far as the light fabrication, et cetera, is not, it's a use that's currently being conducted at the property from your testimony, and that use is proposed to continue. What is proposed to change is that the work being done outside, which is disruptive to the community, will now be done inside. You're here to oppose that request.
Correct.
If you were successful in your opposition, the work would continue to be done outside and nothing would change. So they would continue to do what they're doing and continue to be disruptive, and they're allowed to go on and continue to use their property as they've been using it. Now, it would seem to me that the work that's now being done outside, the proposal to do that work inside now, would be of benefit to the community and would be beneficial to your values and your use and enjoyment of your property, because no longer would this loud, obnoxious noise from this work be done outside. It would be done inside of an enclosed area. So I just want to be clear that sort of what's being proposed, what's existing, and while I can appreciate that from your pictures and what you described, that it sounds like they may not be the best neighbors. Unfortunately,
That would be an understatement, sir.
well, unfortunately, that's not something which is relevant in a zoning case, because lots of people are good or bad neighbors. Whether or not they cut their grass or whether or not they put up signs that may or may not be justified, that's not all that germane to what we're looking at here.
How about the value of the homes in the area with the double story? I mean,
Well, as I was saying, that it sounds to me that what's obnoxious about the use is all the noise and the disturbance. That's what you described. And that loud noise going on is what disrupts your use and enjoyment of your property. You described how the noise was so loud, they were making things vibrate from your walls, fall down, break, etc. If that's going to be done inside, I think that would be beneficial to the value of your property.
well, the compound is huge. What guarantee do we have that after they build this, that they're gonna, actually work inside on a summer day when the weather's warm that they might not want to.
In that exact question, and you had testified that the work would go inside. Will all the work go inside on a permanent basis?
Thank you.
I'm told that all the work is going inside on a permanent
We issued
basis.
an approval contingent upon that. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just have a quick question, though, with respect to that. The fabrication is one thing, sanding a barge or whatever, something different. It sounds like outside the scope of what you're suggesting was going to be the work done inside.
Yes, and some of their repair is marine-based. A lot of it does take place out on ships, but occasionally they do have some repair that happens at the facility, and that would be the sanding work.
And that would probably be done outside. This is not right.
Let's be clear. Will that be done inside or outside?
That would be done inside, sir.
How are they going to get a barge inside of this place? These barges are huge.
What they're proposing to build doesn't look like a rather small structure.
And if it can go down the highway, it's going to be able to get in the door.
So what we'll have to put up with for months is them building a new building, and believe me, they're going to stick it to everybody. They will. They'll be
But
louder
sir,
than loud.
I do want to be clear here. Do you understand what I had said before, that assume, we said, you're right, these guys are jerks, they conduct really loud, obnoxious work, and we don't want to give them any approval to what they're done. Appeal denied. You do understand that their work would continue.
Correct.
Today is not going to stop them from doing that.
Yeah, but there are certain rights that we have with noise,
What do you want
too.
us to do, sir? I'm a little bit lost.
To deny the claim because the building's going to be an eyesore, it's going to bring down the property value. Everybody who's signed, there's 12 signatures
You were
on here.
complaining about the noise.
It's a more than a one-fold situation. This is a multi-dimensional situation. There is not one side to this. This is you could fold the paper 6 ways and on each. This is not a one-term thing. It's multi-dimensional.
You also do understand that the residential area is adjacent to the B3 zoning district. So unfortunately, there are places we can see where you have residential areas that abut commercial areas.
Correct.
And what's permitted within those commercial areas are lots of loud and obnoxious uses that wouldn't be conducive in a residential area. But yet, because the zoning districts abut one another, they're permitted to engage in those uses that are legal to be conducted within that zoning district, irrespective of the fact that just on the other side of the zoning boundary, there may be lots of houses.
Many houses, and back of them are many row homes,
I know.
and there's many complaints coming from, these are,
I can
again, the
understand that, but
signatures.
What I'm saying, sir, is that do you understand that we can't do anything about that?
So then the alternative is for in the United States of America, for us to sit in our homes and suffer through this kind of noise and to have the price of our homes being brought down.
That they're also in the United States of America.
I absolutely do, but they're infringing upon other people's rights and privacy.
But they're in and I think they're in a commercial zone, and there is unfortunately, a commercial zone at some point has to end, and there's a boundary. And there's going to be, what happens that's permissible in the commercial zone may be heard or seen from the residential zone. There's really nothing you can do, because you have to have some boundary somewhere. If there was no boundary, they could do it next door to you, or across the street from you, but there is a boundary here, and they're within their boundary.
What guarantees do we have that all the work when they build this building is going to be done inside? I mean, they're telling you that, but.
Well, they've testified to that. And they also testified that they would be willing to agree as a condition of any approval that might be issued, that all the work would have to be conducted within their premises. So that's rather significant, because from the community's perspective, that now makes that enforceable.
Would that include stopping the usage of generators?
The zoning board is not an enforcement agency. There's building code issues that may be at play here. There's other ordinances that may be violated, but that goes through the enforcement under the building code of Baltimore City, or health department rules and codes.
Right.
The police have their own set of standards for enforcement, and there's ways to get at these kinds of complaints that go beyond just the zoning board.
And I've been told that by other offices that I've contacted, that if, that the noise alone can be fined, if we wanted to pursue it. I don't want to do that to them. All we want is peace and quiet, and we are not getting it. It's terrible. I don't think anybody in this building would want to live the way we live. I really don't.
Well, not to beat the proverbial dead horse, but as Mr. Washington said, if we do nothing and deny this, you will continue to have that level of noise.
And what they're proposing is at least a potential solution to that. That is that the offensive use will now be contained indoors.
How long of a period of time would they have to complete this structure?
That really is determined by their building permit. They've got, Mr. Richardson, do you have a construction timeline?
We are targeting about 6 to 8 months of construction, total duration.
All right, thank you. So their projection is that construction is going to take 6 to 8 months to complete construction of the building. After which time, the storage containers and all the equipment that's out there, that's going to be removed. The use will then be contained within inside the structure that's being built, that is proposed to be built. It's gonna be I look at the aerial and I see there's lots of different equipment and such that's all over the lot. If all that's gonna be removed and there's gonna be a building that's there and all the equipment is gonna be located inside, it's gonna be a much more cleaned up site. And it offers the prospect, at least, I understand that they're not proposing to soundproof the building and such, but it offers the prospect, at least, of reduced offensiveness from the noise from their activities, because it will now be contained within their structure.
I'm not happy with it, and I don't think the community will be happy with that decision, but I mean, you guys make the decisions, I don't.
Okay. Was there anything further you like that?
No, just that we've lived in hell, and it's a shame. It really is. I don't think you guys realize the magnitude of this noise, That's another thing. They actually posted signs saying that they were a filming crew at one point to try to take the 22 feet of the field that was next door, the one with the high grass, and come to find out that wasn't true either. So I don't know whether to believe them or not when they tell me if this place is built, they're going to do all the work inside, or they're going to maybe on a nice summer day do half of it outside with these barges and drive everybody completely out of their mind,
Well, we're going to assume that they're being truthful, and
But sir, can I just say something?
Just a moment.
The evidence points to that they're not truthful.
Well, but do you understand that currently you have no way to remedy that? And that by having an enforceable condition of any approval, you would have an enforcement mechanism, whereby if they weren't being truthful with you and they violated that condition, they then risk the approval that this board might issue. So you're getting a rather important enforcement mechanism by having that condition, something you currently do not have.
What repercussions would we have if they violate, say they say they're going to build the structure and do all the work inside, and they don't do that? What repercussions do we have to counteract, to fight this?
Okay. I don't want to go too far down this line, just because we've got a lot of people who are behind you.
I understand. I understand.
But Mr. Tanner, do you want to briefly answer his question?
Well, it would take an enforcement strategy you need to file a complaint with the Office of the Zoning Administrator. They have the authority to enforce the conditions that the board places on a property, plus any other violations that may be occurring. You need to be willing to complain and follow up with the enforcement agencies involved. If this is so bad, you need to develop that kind of relationship with the enforcement people.
When you say enforcement, who exactly are we speaking about when you say the word
It
enforcement?
starts with the Office of the Zoning Administrator in the Department of Housing. They are the enforcement agency.
And what tools would they have as far as?
They have inspectors who come out, document, they issue violation notices. They
And if the
can,
inspectors came out and observed that there were persistent violations of the condition, what could they do?
well, they would cite them with a violation notice. If they fail to comply in a reasonable time, they can fine them up to $500 a day. They can get an injunction to force them to comply with a court order. And if they fail to comply, they can end up going to jail. Potentially, it's rare that that kind of thing occurs. But if they're a bad actor, there's methods to enforce it. You talk to your council person to get some help.
I think that's, yeah, definitely gonna have to be done. I don't see anything good coming out of this. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Mr. Richardson, anything you'd like to say?
No.
in response?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
I don't think we can condition this as a part of any potential approval, but if they're spending the money, maybe they would consider just the inserts that go in the gates or inside of the fence from a sightline perspective, a screening.
What is the name of their company? Why do they have different names on the fence and different names on what is the actual name of the company?
Marcon Engineering.
Marcon Engineering.
That's the name of the company.
And so when we go online and it says Halliburton Metal / Deverak and Sons, who is Deverak and Sons?
I don't know the answer to that.
Come on, guys, you know?
That's an ownership issue versus, how they want to own it. People own property in all different facets, all kinds of LLCs and companies and all that, that are not necessarily associated with the business that's going to be there. I can't answer that question.
But there is one quick other thing I'd like to say for the record that's
Well, we're gonna
informative.
have to-
I understand. I'll quickly mention it.
The proceeding, but I'll say that the name of the applicant here is Marcon
Thank you.
Engineering Services. All right.
Thank you, Your
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Lockwood?
No.
Hmm? Okay. All right. I'm going to call 2017-119, 223 through 225 Park Avenue. Abraham Hurdle. Mr. Hurdle, just for a point of clarification, you're not intending to have a room full of people testify, correct?
I could certainly proffer their testimony if that would be helpful.
Are all of them relevant?
I think that they all would support the project.
They might support it, but do they have anything to say that's relevant other than that they're here in support of an application?
Besides waiting 3 hours to testify or a couple hours to testify.
That was their choice and your choice for
Absolutely.
inviting them.
And I think that while I think it's my right to call each and every one of them, I'm going to pass on that and just proffer their testimony if that's possible.
That would be good. All right. If there's anyone whose testimony you believe you will be affirmatively offering,
Yes.
you can have those individuals stand. All others can be seated.
Are you in opposition?
Want me to go get him once I'm finished talking?
Sir, you're in opposition, both of you?
All right.
And Mr. Bess.
And Mr. Hurdle, we have this as an application to use the entire first floor for after-hours establishment with live entertainment and dancing, including electronic hookah lounge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
I raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Do we have staff reports?
Yes. We have received several letters in opposition. Baltimore Development Corporation writes that the proposed use does not meet the required findings of subsection 14204 and would be detrimental to the public health, security, and general welfare due to a history of violations and complaints to the police. They have attached Exhibits A and B listing the police calls and violations incurred by this business, occurring since January 1st, 2017, and mostly between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. While BDC does not endorse or object to this specific application, any approval of a late-night operation would exacerbate the documented problems associated with this business. The Downtown Partnership of Baltimore writes that they and other groups are working hard to revitalize this mostly unused, challenging area of Park Avenue as a high-quality retail mix with a positive street-level experience. To that end, the area has gained a new hotel and housing units. They are opposed to the conditional use. The partnership investigates, and its findings into the operation at this location have not been positive. A lack of compliance with the occupancy permit, a lack of business license and a trader's license, and unpermitted alterations to the building that have led the city recently to close the business. Due to these indicators, the partnership requests that the BMZA deny this application. The owner of the aforementioned hotel, La Quinta Inns and Suites, writes that the illegal activities, noise, disorderly conduct, and fights associated by this business need to be stopped if the hotel is to attract good employees and customers. The Market Center Merchants Association writes that they do not oppose an after-hours operation, but the complaint call volume indicates the negative impact of this business that it's having on the quality of life and is hindering development.
If I may I object? If there's someone from these individuals, can we just have them testify? Because I'm
reading letters.
But are there people from these agencies testifying today?
I don't know.
Just
seems redundant to me.
So that you're, so we're clear with the board's practices. We accept correspondence from affected individuals, entities, parties, et cetera, and we read those into the record. You have the ability to respond to some, none, or all of the concerns raised in some form or fashion. If you can finish.
Okay. Yeah. The Bromo Arts District writes that they support artists who work and perform in the evening hours. However, this business is having a negative impact on attracting new and retaining current artists and art organizations. Residents write to repeat the arguments against the business and highlight the nuisances, the loud nature of this business, keeping them awake at nights, having to clean up their customers' trash, and the business's unwillingness or inability to control their guests. Councilman for this 11th District, Eric Costello, writes that within the past 6 months, the Baltimore City Police Department fielded 55 calls for service in the 200 block of Park Avenue, 16 between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., 23 between 2 and 4 a.m., and 1 between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. There were 78 calls for service in the 300 block of Park Avenue and 35 calls in the 100 and 200 blocks of Clay Street. I do not believe that adding more nighttime activity to these blocks will improve this situation. As councilman for downtown's west side, I must represent the best interests of its business community. In the past few years, I have watched as development by good actors has improved the quality of life in the neighborhood and attracted more people and businesses to move there. Sadly, this project would do the opposite. In light of this, I would urge you to deny the request. Does planning have anything?
Thank you. Planning Department notes that this property first was the subject of a previous appeal, which was indefinitely postponed. And at that time, the Planning Department noted this issue concerning after-hours establishment. The zoning code definition provides that it is any of the following that remains open after 2 a.m. on any day: a banquet hall, dance hall, private club or lodge, or similar place, or a restaurant that provides live entertainment or dancing. The board, therefore, would have to determine if the proposed use, including the electronic hookah lounge, is described by one of the uses mentioned in this definition in order for it to be authorized to operate as an after-hours establishment. The second question that the Planning Department had concerning the application was that the hookah lounge or electronic hookah lounge is not listed as a permitted or conditional use, and so could only be approved as an accessory use. And there is, unfortunately, in the material available to the Planning Department, no specific statement as to what the principal use was going to be, that this would be accessory to. Those are the Planning Department's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hurdle.
Yes, Abraham Hurdle on behalf of iVilla. With me is Sammy. You spell your last name, Sammy?
Samuel Gurmu.
Can you spell your last name, sir?
Gurmu.
And also Caleb Tadell.
Yes. Caleb K-A-L.
Can we just
One at a time?
Sure. So I can catch up. Go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Gurmu, why are you here today?
Get approval from the board for our
And
business.
why do you need that approval today?
Actually, to serve our customer and the people they needed for the business.
Did you previously have a permit
Yes.
that allowed you to operate?
Yes, sir.
And what was that permit?
We actually have, in the past 5 years, we have 4 different permits from the city, because the first permit we have is, which we have it with us, is for a hookah lounge and live entertainment. And for some reason, the city say, oh, we give you by mistake. Actually, it's not in the code. You have to return that one, and we will give you something different. And then we said, okay, and they give us tobacco shop and a retail and live entertainment and lounge. And then they said, oh, by the way, we made a mistake in that one too. After 6 months, we gotta give you another one. You gotta bring that back, which we did. And they told us, now we gotta be a banquet hall and live entertainment and tobacco
Why don't
shop.
you start there. What is it that you're proposing to be?
We're proposing to be live entertainment and after hours.
Okay, but
That's
so
what we've
as-
been.
As addressed by the planning department, in order to be an after-hours establishment, you have to have, be a certain kind of establishment, so.
We'll go into that.
Well, I'm trying to speed it along.
Sure.
So are you serving food, beverages?
Yeah, we used to, before they take it away.
Okay, are you proposing to do that as a part of this use?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so people would be able to come there after, I guess it's 2 o'clock in the morning, people are able to come by, have a beverage, have some food.
Correct.
Are they, how would people go about being admitted to the establishment? Would they be able just to show up?
Yes, we used to have the first licenses, which is hookah lounge and lounge, allow us to have anybody can walk in and have this party. The second licenses with the banquet hall didn't allow us to have that. So what we did is we have our place for a party for a group of people. They can come in as a plan the day before they plan. That's that only, we try to just follow the license the city always provide us. So it been a lot of complicated issues with the city. For that reason,
I'm asking for, I know that there was a lot of
Sure.
stuff that's gone on in
Sure.
the past. I'm asking
What
for
I'm
how
proposing.
you're proposing to
Sure.
go forward.
Okay, what I'm proposing is moving forward, we want to have our establishment open for a public, and which whomever want to go out through the cities and they doesn't have enough time to finish their conversation with their friend or their nighttime life, they're just not ready to go home, they can come in our place and with no alcohol, just beverage and foods to continue have their conversation or their nightlife. That's what we just proposing.
Okay. I think I saw a drawing here somewhere.
I can add more. The reason why we do that is because from my experience, we see in a lot of bar or club, people live in the club or the bar, they still try to stay away outside just to continue have conversation with their friend or others. They always try to stay a little bit late, so we just finding a place for them to have that conversation to be continue or the entertainment. We have the drawing here if you are looking for the drawing.
So you would not have any preconditions such as membership or anything like that? This would just be, if you wanted to come in, you could come in?
Yes, moving forward, yes, sir, that's what we want to have.
And do you have any, you said that you were going to sell food.
Yes.
Where are you going to be, well, what kind of food are you planning on offering?
So we offering like already pre-made food like chips and cookies and electronics hookah. It's not part of food, but just the time to be there. And then sodas and energy drinks. That's what we try to say.
Okay, and where would they, I'm looking at the floor plan that you submitted here, where would they buy that?
I don't know if you we seen the same drawing. The left side of the building, it's a kitchen here. Right here, it's a kitchen. This hallway is our kitchen.
The space here in the rear?
Yes, sir. After the bedroom.
This is here. We have the same drawing.
That's a stove?
Yeah.
We also propose the different drawing to make sure we will be qualified if this go through for us to change the building layout based on the code or any suggestion by the cities or Baltimore Downtown Partnership. We discussed with them. They was looking the interior and external design. We willing to do that as is needed.
Okay. Mr. Hurdle?
Thank you. Who suggested the use that you wrote down on your appeal? Who helped you with that?
The housing.
Such as, can you give me do you know the people that were helping you with that?
Yes, it's Jeff.
Anybody else?
We have a couple people from the sanitation people. I think Thomas and two other people, they always come our place. They shut it down because that's the only reason they said. They said, oh, you should apply for this, and if you get approved, we're never gonna come to your place. And we just did it. We've been done it like in the past 3 years. They changed it in the 3-4 times our license.
So every time they've given you a use,
Yes.
you've tried to operate within that use.
Yes.
And the most recent application for live entertainment with dancing, after hours, and electronic hookah is what they had suggested, correct?
Yes. They actually handwrite it in the application paper and give it to me, say, apply for this and you'll be okay after now. Like, we did it in the past like 5 times and we still not
Why don't you
okay.
have Mr. Hurdle do it?
Okay. Oh, we did bring in the handwriting and that's why we're here now. He's
But I
here.
mean, you said that when you went down, you had to have all these people from the city or whatever put it together for you. Why didn't you just have Mr. Hurdle do it?
It wasn't in
That's
the
what-
city at the time.
Yeah, he was not there. So
Sorry.
in the past,
Well, but you hired him to be here.
That's
Why didn't you
correct.
hire him to do that?
let me explain that part. in the past when they told us, we just follow their things and we did it. So since they,
Instead of saying, I mean,
let me explain.
a little bit confused as to why it just seems as though you're sort of like a leaf blowing across a stream. You're just kind of going along with it instead of,
Correct.
as you're
In the past.
hearing here with your lawyer, and your lawyer is apparently trying to make a point of, well, you were told this, you were told that. And my question is, why didn't you get him involved earlier?
We didn't think so. We believe the city, they do the right things. So we follow their things. But this time, since they screwed us up 3 times, we do not believe them. That's why we hired them. I hope you understand the cities work for us. That's why I believe that's what they work for the community, for the business. And I never think so they're gonna do this over and over to us. The first time, okay, somebody made a mistake, we backed off and we tried to follow up, and then they did this. For the 3rd time, that's why we hired him, and that's why he's here.
Mr. Gurmu, you guys have spent considerable sums trying to build this out, correct?
That's correct.
And you recently spoke to the Downtown Partnership, is that right?
That's correct.
And one of the things that was brought up was the facade of the facility, correct?
That's correct.
What was that discussion about?
That discussion about it is the Baltimore Downtown Partnership. They mentioned in the last meeting, we asked them they have any concern to resolve it. Their concern was the look of the building, which we extremely want to change that, and including the inside, but we would never have a confidence of the business is going to stay open because of being closed more than 20 times in the past 5 years. So we just doesn't have the confidence to change the outside, but the inside we already spent more than $100,000 to change everything asked by the fire department, to put up fire sprinkler, to put up a fan, to put up a lot of things. We'd already done that. Now we're not doing outside because since we never have the confidence to close it. And we also mentioned for Baltimore Downtown Partnership, if this is going through for us, we're willing to do it before even we open the business. Because we just don't want to promise, and they said what's approved. So we said, if this is approved, we'll change the look of the building even before we open.
So the Downtown Partnership asked you to change the look of the building before you reopen, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've indicated that you would do that, right?
Yes, sir.
And what did they say in response to that?
In response to that, they said they will speak for their party, they will go to change their new paper, they will submit it, which I was expecting was a new letter that been submitted from them, and it's not here, I think.
Who was it that you spoke to?
Devon. We have 1 hour and 30-minute meeting last Thursday. No, Monday, sorry.
Was that the only person you were supposed to speak with last Monday?
Yeah, the meeting was scheduled with this party here, and 5 minutes before the meeting, everything was canceled. Devon called me, he said, I'm canceling the meeting. I was like, why? And then he said, oh, we're not having conversation with your lawyer. We just try to have conversation with you. I said, he's not coming. And then he said he already canceled it, but he can meet with me. He will apologize. Literally 5 minutes before the meeting. That's why we have the meeting for 1 hour and a half.
So there was a discussion in some of the letters here about violations that were issued.
Correct.
You've been accused of numerous violations. Is that right?
That's correct.
And of the...
Have they been accused or have they been issued?
Well, I think there's a distinguishable difference, and I'm getting there. Of the 13 issued violation notices, how many of them have you been found responsible for?
None.
There were 3 that the landlord paid. And do you know why that was?
Because the landlord didn't send us the paper. He was thinking he's going to fight it himself, and he was confused why even he have that paper sanitation.
What were those violations for?
The 3 that you guys got that mirrored the landlord's, you disputed though, correct?
That's correct.
And they were found not responsible?
Yes.
But the ones that you said the landlord paid, what were those for?
No, they never, we did pay for the landlord, but they sent us 2 letters, which they never did, 2 sanitation, the same copy, one for us, one for the landlord. So when the landlord...
What was the violation? What were the 3 violations?
It's about the use, the same topic. The use is not allow you to do...
Use.
Yes.
So you got 3 citations.
The landlord
for
received
the use.
3
Yes.
citations for the
Okay.
use.
The same...
The tenant also received those same citations, disputed them in a timely fashion, and they were dismissed.
Yes.
Well, I thought you said the landlord paid them.
He paid them premature, I think.
They were,
Sir, we cannot, since he's testifying, that guy down there gets very upset when people who aren't here, who aren't testifying and who haven't submitted their names yet start speaking up. So let's try not to speak out of turn.
I'll try to clarify, I apologize.
Sure.
There were 6 violations issued on one occasion for one date, 3 for the landlord that mirrored 3 for the tenant for the same exact situation. The tenant disputed those violations in a timely fashion, went to the Environmental Control Board, and all 3 charges were dismissed. The landlord did not dispute them in a timely fashion, and therefore, based on a lease requirement, the tenant did pay them on behalf of the landlord. There were another 7 that were issued, and they were also disputed, and all 7 were also dismissed. I have the notice here. There wasn't an official dismissal given because they're still issuing it, but I do have the charges from the 6 of them that were dismissed, as well as an email indicating the 7th on appeal was dismissed.
When did the landlord pay the 3?
Would have been January, February.
Okay, and when did he appear in front of the control board to contest them?
The other 10 violations, I believe it was a February date and maybe a March date.
Okay, so so by the time he appeared in front of him, the landlord had already paid the violations?
The issue was the violations were issued in, I think it was September was the initial set, and the second set was in January, and it just took forever for the hearing to be held. They've got new people over there. I guess they're struggling with some records, and some
Okay,
things
but
were
I'm saying
lost.
that by the time he appeared, the landlord had already paid the.
We paid it, the violations were paid
Yes.
I think after the
No,
hearing,
no,
technically.
the answer is yes. We paid before we get the hearing, but it was the same case. We paid already, we paid it in the court. So what I'm trying to say is, it's the same violation we distributed in the court, the landlord paid. It's the same issue, the same topic.
Yeah, no, so there's one violation.
Yes.
Well, I guess actually there's 3 violations that get issued, and then their violation notices get issued. Same violation notice gets issued to the landlord and the tenant.
Yes.
Correct.
You disputed it.
Yes.
The landlord paid it.
That's correct.
By the time you had your hearing, the landlord had already paid the violation.
That's correct.
The payment was the day of the hearing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But if he
So
didn't
really,
pay,
by
he
the
will.
time
yeah.
the hearing, the contest was sort of moot because it had already been paid.
We can get the transcript. It didn't feel like that in the hearing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, but the fact is that by the time of the hearing,
Sure, and the other 7 were all contested and were all dismissed.
okay, and what were the other 7 for? We talked about
The other
3.
7, their accusations were for use permit issues and I believe work outside the scope. One of the issues was live entertainment not being permitted. Their use permit at the time indicated live entertainment was permitted. There was an issue with some sort of electrical work. They had a permit for that. There was an issue with some sort of demolition work, and they had a permit for that. I'm not sure who the inspector was, but when they went in, there was no one there, so there was no live entertainment at the time. They issued a live entertainment violation. I guess they didn't look at the permit, which at the time indicated live entertainment was a part of their permit.
All right, continue.
So, beyond that, there was a mention of police calls.
Correct.
And you looked into those police calls, correct?
That's correct.
Because you were concerned that there was some sort of situation that you weren't aware of.
Correct.
And in your review of the police calls for that property as opposed to the block,
Yes.
there's other businesses on the block, right?
That's correct.
How many calls were found to be of any substantive nature at all for that address?
For 2016 and 17, it's only 76, if I'm not wrong.
76 calls,
Yes.
correct? And how many
Total.
calls were substantiated in terms of something happened?
8.
8 calls. How many people have been arrested inside your property in the last year?
Nobody.
So there's never been an arrest inside this property, to your knowledge?
No. The past 5 years, we never have any police arrest anybody in our building.
Outside?
No.
To your knowledge, you've never seen anybody arrested outside?
No. Yeah. And I mean, that the police call is, the last time, it's the biggest concern from the other party. I really want to fix the issues, not try to like fight it or anything. I want to fix it if it's there. So they mentioned it to me, including Castellos and other teams. They said, you have 200 call, in the past 6 months between this hour to this hour. I said, that doesn't make sense because I'm there every day and that doesn't sound right. So when I look it up, their thing is it's a public record only for 200 call per block. There, I said that doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna be painted based on the other block what's doing. So can I find out how I can get my own? So I called the police department. I asked. They said, yeah, you can pay and get it. I paid and I got the whole detail of why it's a call for and then everything. I have only 76 calls for that property for 1 year and 6 months, which 25 of them is no police service needed, 25 of them unable to locate, 25 of them did not need it anymore, the police. Literally 8 calls in the past 1 year and a half, police came, write a report for the topic. And I was like, okay, I sent that email to discuss with the group, which the group didn't show up to, and we explained the person he showed up.
Do you have another one of these?
I do. I have several more, in fact.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I did send you email, I think. You got it, is that right? Okay. I sent the group the same copy for the opposed group.
And I also have a copy of the violation notices being dismissed, as well as an email from Rebecca Woods, who's the head of the Environmental Control Board, indicating that an official decision on our appeal is being issued as we speak, if the board would like that.
Any more testimony from this witness, or you have?
Yes, Mr. Germer, has anybody from any of these groups approached you at the business or asked you to discuss this matter to resolve these disputes?
No. I mean, I can say Devon called me. He said he want to discuss with me, and he said also they have a concerned group, which the group, I talked to Christy and one another person on the phone, and I explained the whole thing. And I mean, I try to fix if it's an issue there. We also request for a meeting that, like I said, the one was canceled, and but we met with Baltimore downtown.
Very briefly, I just want to go through section 14.310, which is the section regarding after-hours establishments, not 14.204. Mr. Germer, your goal is not to be open until 2 a.m. every day, correct?
That's correct.
The hours are ideally going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday till 4 or 5 a.m.?
That's correct.
So it's only going to be 3 days, which are essentially weekend nights anyway.
That's correct.
In addition, you do have a stereo in the place, correct?
That's correct.
But you've installed significant sound deadening, is that right?
That's right.
You spent how much money so far renovating the place to insulate that noise?
Only for the noise part, probably more than $25,000. That's the biggest concern. They said they want to make sure there was no sound coming out from the building. Literally, when we open, if you ride 3 feet from our building, you're not hearing any music. So to do that was required a lot of things to put in place. I mean, this maybe doesn't matter. I'm a sound engineer in the background, so I really take my time and did that to make sure that's not going to be the cause.
And the size of the establishment has already been established, and you have a capacity of 99 per your fire permit. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can speak to that a little more.
At this point, I think that's
Okay.
funny.
Okay.
You don't plan to have any live entertainment or beside a DJ, right?
That's correct.
With regards to exterior lighting, there's a significant quantity of it, correct?
That's right.
Is there any ideal or any desire to have outdoor seating of any nature?
No, sir.
And you're not going to use it as a tavern of any nature, right?
No, sir.
In terms of the limits on your entertainment, essentially it's just an hours requirement, correct?
That's correct.
And with regards to a security plan, how many people do you have working security on, say, a Friday night?
We have 15 people working as security, which is 7 of them is armed and 7 of them not.
And are they licensed to carry those firearms, the ones that carry?
That's correct.
Do you use any off-duty police officers?
Yes, sir.
Are the security personnel only in the inside of the location, or are they in the outside or in the surrounding area?
So we have more than 7 of them, they work outside, literally, because of a lot of concern from the area to be safe. So we did the whole 6 of them armed securities. They was in the block, the whole block they secure in the block. Literally, we just in the parking lot too. So we have 15 employees and from the security part only, but 7 of them they work outside to just make sure the block is secure.
And there's parking in the immediate area, correct? So there's never an issue?
They also stand in the parking lot to make sure that all guests is going to back their car and everything.
And you went out to neighbors to see if they would support you, and do you realize, did you get, is it roughly 692 signatures of people from the area?
Yes, that's from the area only, but we have more than that petition.
Did you also get letters from local businesses?
That's correct.
Does 8 letters or 9 letters sound about correct?
9.
I would proffer to the board that we have, I think it's roughly 700 signatures and letters here from people in the surrounding area and other residents.
I think you're missing something, maybe. We probably
more?
have more than
Showing this to
2,000.
the opposition?
We have maybe more than 2,000. I think it looks like maybe missing the paper. Because the last time hearing we came here, we have 800. I literally have it in my hand.
And you'd be willing to work with the community both in terms of any future concerns or the decor, the facade, anything of that nature, right?
That's correct.
And you wouldn't be open Monday through Wednesday or even Sunday night, right? If you were granted this after-hours privilege, correct?
That's correct. We will only be open 3 days a week because there was a concern. They said if we open every week, and I mean just the idea of having even the traffic there, they will have a concern. And then I was willing to only open 3 days a week, and we can be able to close the rest of the week.
And you'd even be willing to open only Fridays and Saturdays if required, till 4 a.m. if needed, right?
Yeah, for the after-hour party, yes, sir. Two days a night, and then if just we've been discussing this with the communities, and I try to explain for the teams. For me to survive in that business, I have to have X amount of people. It doesn't matter based on the traffic. So if I can bring 10 people Monday, 10 people Tuesday, it's gonna add up 15 people. But if I can have 15 people Friday, if I close, it's the same for me. So I was just trying to work with the community, like what they prefer.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have no further questions for Mr. Gurma. I'm not sure if.
One quick question.
Sure.
Do people bring alcohol in here?
No, sir.
They don't?
No. We're not allowed any alcohol in our building.
I just wanted to ask the question.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, as you describe it, it's a place for people to go who maybe haven't finished their conversation from being somewhere else. There's no alcohol, there's some food. What necessitates 15 security folks with 7 of them armed?
That's a good question. We did not believe we need that many securities, but the police department and the cities, they demand us to have more security, which we're willing to work with them. We just taken an extra step to just make sure we stay open. That's in the past. They said we need to have 5 security first. We did it. They said, by the way, 10. Make sure the block is straight, the whole street is clear. And then we say, okay. And then the third time they came, they said, we don't want to even be around, we have another thing to do, so you guys, can you have 15 more security? We said, okay. Literally, that's exactly what happened. We just try to follow their command, and help out the city too,
How many people would come in on a Friday or Saturday night when you were open?
When we open, maybe 90 people, 80 people, yes. We have 99 capacity. If it's anybody come more than our capacity, we always return them home.
Do you charge a per person fee to get in?
Yes, not us. Based on our license, it doesn't allow us to do that. The banco code, so we always, the person rent the space from us, they always charge. But we want to avoid that too. We want to charge ourselves based on the date and the time. That's why we are applying for this.
Okay. Any other witnesses?
Yes, I'd like to call Mr. Bess, who's a local resident. You spell your full, give your full name, sir.
Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, B-E-S-S.
Mr. Bess, are you a resident of the area?
I am. I'm a resident at 39 West Lexington.
And 39 West Lexington, to my recollection, is immediately around the corner. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how long have you been a resident of that location?
Since December of 2011.
Since December 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And you're familiar with this establishment?
I am.
Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
In your words, why do you support this project?
I mean, I support this project because prior to them actually getting on that location, you know, you have to go to different areas, you know, down the street or away from my immediate living conditions to basically enjoy myself and enjoy my friends and bring them down there. And so for me not to have to drive and just be able to leave my building and go out and have conversation is just a great spot to be at, to be honest. And also I feel comfortable there. A lot of times I go to places in Baltimore and I feel like I have to watch my surroundings, and here I don't. I feel like they take our security serious. We can have a good, fun time, you know, and just meet new people and enjoy ourselves.
Do you think that all their additional security leads to more safety on the surrounding area as well?
I do. And I've seen businesses in that location before, and it's a night and day difference from what it has since they've actually been in that area.
And you, in fact, also wrote a letter and got some signatures from other residents, both in your building and in the immediate vicinity. Is that correct?
Yes, with conjunction of my friends that lived in the building.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Bass?
I would just like to say, like I said, I mean, I've seen the businesses in that location prior to them actually being there. Like I said, I've been here since December of 2011, and sometimes when I get home from work, I don't want to have to drive and go anywhere else to enjoy myself, or when I have company, I want to be able to leave my building and enjoy some of the residents that live in our building. Having them there is very convenient. I know that a lot of times the Downtown Partnership likes to speak on behalf of the residents. I am a resident of that neighborhood, and I can speak for myself. I do appreciate what they do in the community. They have provided a lot to the community, but as a resident, it's very convenient to have another location that we can go to and feel secure and feel safe, and like I said, have conversation. So
I have no further testimony from Mr. Bass.
Okay.
Any questions? I would submit his letter and signatures when they're reviewed.
Anyone else?
At this time, I have no one else to.
Okay.
This time.
All right. Thank you very much. Opposition. Let me pull that microphone around.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Kristen Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director of the Market Center Merchants Association. We work in 27 blocks around the Lexington market area, including this location. And we have a board of 18 members. And we brought this to their attention at our April board meeting, I believe, did some additional research, and the board voted to oppose this particular application. As you can imagine, it's not something we like to do as a business organization, is to oppose an application from a local business. But I think in this case, we felt that there are significant enough concerns about how the operation is functioning and has functioned in the past, that, you know, while we like to support businesses as much as we possibly can, we can't do it at the expense of the whole surrounding area, the surrounding businesses, as well as the residential buildings in the area, because we're trying to create a healthy sort of mixed-use environment. So the residents matter to us as well. And while we certainly understand that some businesses in the area did send those letters in, and we support, you know, their ability to do that and to disagree, we as a board, as an organization, did decide to oppose it. And I would just state that with respect to the police calls for service, you know, there were 78 calls for service in a year and 5 months. And while it is true that reports were only written in 8 cases, I did contact the police department to ask what is meant by no police service necessary or complaint abated, which were 2 of the big ones on this chart of records. And just because no police service was ultimately decided that it was needed, or because the complaint was abated, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who made the initial call didn't have a valid concern. It could mean that, but it doesn't always mean that. It's like kind of a blanket statement for things that have, you know.
As I understand it from
Yeah.
prior cases where we've had officers come to testify about that, what they've said is that it generally refers to a situation where someone has called, and by the time the officer gets there, there's nothing that they can observe. So either they can't say anything one way or the other. So if there was someone who was there before, that person has gone on and moved on. Maybe there was nothing. Maybe there was no basis for the call to begin with. They really can't say one way or the other.
Right. So I would just say it doesn't necessarily mean nothing was happening. So I think that is it for me. Although I will say I did talk to Mr. Gurmu on the phone. We had a nice conversation, and I do regret that I did not go to the meeting that Davon Barbour from the Downtown Partnership had with him. I should have gone to that, and I apologize.
What were the were there any particular concerns or experiences which any of the merchants had brought up, or was it just simply the fact that there were these large number of calls for police service that were associated with this?
Several members of our board expressed concern about disorderly conduct, loud noise, fights, that kind of thing.
They had observed, or they were?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
I have questions.
Okay.
You said that there were 18 members, is that right?
We have an 18-member board, yes.
So 18 people are the people who made the decision on this matter, correct?
Correct.
And did you call them at any time between when you heard this application went out and the first time we went to a hearing?
We spoke in person about it at our board meeting, and I've had email exchanges with people.
Sure. I guess my question was, before your board meeting, when you guys voted against it, did anybody reach out to the business to talk to them and discuss their concerns?
No.
Do you think that would have been valuable to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure that it would have changed the position of the board, but like, as I said, I regret not reaching out sooner. I did speak with Mr. Gurmu on the phone before the first hearing, and yeah, it would have been the appropriate thing for me to do, to reach out to him. But we did actually, he and I did speak before the hearing.
But that was after you guys had voted against it, correct?
I think so, but I'm not. I'm not sure.
Which members of your board have seen these ongoing incidents?
I am not going. There are people who have seen incidents who are not comfortable coming forward themselves. They are not here today for that reason. That's why.
Do you find
I'm
that
here.
testimony therefore very credible in any capacity, given that they're not here?
I do. Personally, I do. Yes.
And their names aren't available to anybody?
They can. These people in this board can do with it what they will.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Sir?
Hi there, I'm Steve Yasko. I'm the Executive Director for the Bromo Arts and Entertainment District. Our board is comprised of members from cultural institutions such as the Hippodrome and the Everyman Theater, as well as the University of Maryland Medical System, the University of Maryland Baltimore, and as well as artists and community groups from Muse 360. We represent real estate agents who are also on our board as well. We represent organizations as diverse and small as the AMP Collective and the UB Blake Cultural Center on up through the Hippodrome and larger cultural institutions. Our board is very much concerned with safety in the area, as most of the patrons coming to these organizations are from outside the neighborhood, and perception and quality of life and the feeling of safety in the Bromo district is of paramount importance. Given the large number of service calls to this establishment over the years, the board and other members of the constituent arts organizations feel that this is not a business that brings the proper light and atmosphere to the district and creates safety concerns, and therefore that's why we oppose the
application.
Right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Horton?
Mr. Yasko, how many members are on your board that voted on this matter?
I'll be honest, at the top of my head, I can't remember right now. We have a board of approximately 12.
Was it less than 12? Was it six?
Well, you never, if you've ever been involved in nonprofit arts organizations, you know how hard it is to get a full board to every meeting, so yes.
So that's my question. How many people do you think it was?
Many people, probably 8.
8 people.
Mm-hmm. These are 8 people who work inside the district, live inside the district, and have various contacts and are deeply networked with each individual business or organization in their own ways. So these are people who've been operating the district for a very long time, and as I've said, they encompass people who own and manage apartment buildings. These are people who own and manage cultural institutions and are responsible for the safety of thousands of people who come into the district from UMMS and the University of Maryland, Baltimore.
So these are people who, before they made these decisions, did their research, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I think once they were presented with the large number of service calls, that was all they needed to see to say that no matter what the disposition of the calls were, that the fact that any business that's having this large a number of calls over a period of less than 18 months is not something in the neighborhood that is conducive to safety and the perception of safety and safe streets in the Bromo district.
What did you guys do to talk to them before their hearing, the last time it was scheduled, or before this hearing?
Given the number of calls, we did not feel that a conversation specifically between me, I'll also be honest, if you know anything about nonprofit arts organizations, I'm the sole employee. So while we have very close relationships with the Downtown Partnership, with Market, with the BDC and other folks who engage in the conversations, I was not present at each one.
Just excuse me.
Yeah.
You can ask me the question, and I can ask him the question.
Sure, that's fine.
In your district, Lexington Market, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How many calls of service are in the Lexington Market area?
I don't know, since it's not specifically, well, one of the things I should say is that the close relationship that we have with Chris and the Market Merchants Association, that is not something I keep track of, since it is
Would you
not
think it's
specific.
more than that number of calls?
Well, it's also a hell of a lot bigger than 2 storefronts on Park Avenue, so I would assume so.
Does that make it a good thing for the neighborhood or a bad thing?
That is, I don't think that's really what I'm here to, I don't think my opinion on that matters for this particular application.
Thank you.
You?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Sir?
Yes, good evening, members of the Board of BMZA. This is Brian Greenan, Economic Development Officer for the Baltimore Development Corporation. We are not a city agency, but we are a quasi-governmental organization contracted by the city to facilitate all of its real estate and economic development. And I'm just here to stand by our letter that we wrote in advance of the last month's hearing. Also to say the exhibit in the letter indicates there were, in the period we asked for from the Baltimore Police Department, there were roughly 22 or 23 calls for service for that block of Park Avenue from January through perhaps March, or January through the middle of April of 2017. And of those calls for service that you see in the exhibit in the letter, I believe it was only 2, perhaps, maybe 3, were for addresses other than 225 Park Avenue.
Mr. Roden?
Do you have that document? Because we have a newer one.
This letter.
With the exhibits, I guess.
This has the.
Can I take a look at that? Sir, how many people decided to oppose this via the letter that you wrote?
Just to be clear about the letter we wrote, the letter is a letter of concern. We stand by that letter. In the letter, we do not explicitly oppose what is being considered today. We are concerned, and that has not changed.
How many people wrote the letter of concern?
I think the letter speaks for itself.
How many people decided to write the letter of concern?
The letter was written by the Baltimore Development Corporation, so this came after. And if BMZ knows anything about BDC, we very rarely write letters either way about hearing items. So we decided to write the letter after.
This is the letter we're talking about, this April 25th, 2017 letter?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And it's authored by Kimberly Clark, Executive Vice President?
Yes, sir.
All right, and Ms. Clark was authorized to write this letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and she wrote it in her representative capacity on behalf of the BDC?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Did the BDC reach out to this business before they wrote the letter?
No, we did not.
Is that normal policy?
Yes, the downtown partnership typically handles things like that in its catchment area. So the catchment area of 225 Park Avenue is downtown Baltimore's west side, which is in the Downtown Management Authority of the downtown partnership. So they are the, for lack of a better word, the community-based organization that represents small businesses, large businesses, property owners within that catchment area. So we are responsible for facilitating real estate and economic development for the entire city, not one specific geographic area.
Did the Development Corporation contact the business before writing the letter?
The answer is no. We would not normally do that. That would be something the downtown partnership would do. We wrote the letter based on numerous concerns raised to us by business owners and property owners within a one-block radius of the subject property.
And you read the letters today that were submitted from business owners in the area?
You mean letters in support?
Correct.
I read those letters. Am I allowed, Mr. Washington, to comment on the letters of support?
Yes, if you're authorized, you can speak on whatever you'd like to.
Sure. I found the letters a little curious, the letters of support, because they're all written, it's the exact same words as if somebody wrote the letter for the business owner, and then the business owner only signs the letter with their business name. So in some cases, and in some cases it's difficult to actually read the name of the owner and the name of the business, but in many of the cases, the letter doesn't actually specify the address of the business that is reported to be in support of the conditional use. So that's my comment.
So one of your concerns is that you can't tell who's making these comments?
Correct. I cannot tell who's making the comments. I cannot tell if that person understands that. So obviously the person didn't write the letter. The letter was written for them. They signed off on the letter. I think I would more characterize those letters of support as more like petitions. The person is signing a de facto petition. They're saying, I approve this message. They didn't actually write the letter. They're not writing a letter of support. That's my interpretation.
You said there was a high volume of service calls, is that right?
Well, what I did say, or what I intended to say, is that in the area, in the time period we asked for, which was January 1st, 2017 through sometime before the last BMZA hearing, we asked for that catchment period of service calls from Baltimore Police Department. So I didn't ask for anything prior to January 1st, 2017, just for a very specific window. And nearly all of them were specific to 225 Park Avenue.
And your concern is that's a high number versus a low number, correct?
I don't have an opinion on whether it's a high or a low number. I'm just merely stating we wanted to provide BMZA with as much information as possible. Since we are here to provide testimony, it's important that our letter have some red meat to it. So the letter speaks for itself. The exhibit merely says that you can see for yourself nearly every call for service in that tight window we asked for from Baltimore Police Department was specifically addressing in response to an issue for 225 Park Avenue.
Do you know if anybody's been arrested in the location?
I do not off the top of my head.
Have you ever been inside the location?
Not inside the location.
Have you ever seen any of these incidents that were reported by the police at the location?
When you say see, do you mean like in real time?
Have you seen them with?
In real time?
Yeah.
No, I did not do a ride-along with the police to address the issue.
Have you ever been by there without the police?
Oh, yes, many times, yeah.
Did you ever see something then?
I see activity. I've seen activity.
I mean criminal activity, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not a police officer or a law enforcement official, so I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on whether or not the activity was inappropriate or illegal or so on and so forth.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
At this time, we would proffer the testimony of the roughly 30 people we have. We have the names as well. People have signed in.
Okay. And the proffer is that if any of those people were called, that they would
Be in support of the
testify to their
project.
support of their project.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're just going to wrap up. That's it.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
It's me.
Oh.
I'm the rapper.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Didn't see me there.
Coffee's for closers.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanansky. I'd sit here as an observer, but also as an interested person. It seems fairly interesting to me that nobody has any personal knowledge of the things that they're complaining of.
Let me make sure I know your role. Are you?
I'm a co-counsel.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right?
You just said you're an
Interesting person.
observer.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm interested as a co-counsel because I see things that are happening
Yeah.
that really should have been asked, whether or not they have any
That's fine.
any personal knowledge. These are people who are charged with downtown, BTC, RAGG, MOPP. You see all this. Where are these people? Come down here. They're the ones who saw everything. They go there. It's a little disingenuous to take something and say calls for service. If this board really wants, I'll get calls for service that'll be 10, doesn't mean anything. You have an office downtown. Someone called. Who did they call? Who was it?
They called.
We don't know. They.
Well,
it's the they. It's like the we. We don't talk French. It's we, they. Who called?
Is that really relevant?
It is, because you get calls to the casino, you get calls to the stadiums, you get calls to the Lexington Market, you get calls to.
None of those folks are here asking for.
And there's none of these folks here have. The BD says they don't have a position, but they do have a position.
Well, I think that their letter expresses what their position is.
So they usually
their
don't take
position-
it.
Their position is that they don't believe that that this applicant meets the required standard for conditional use. That's what they said in their letter.
Their required standard.
No, not their. The required standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't believe that. They don't have anything to go by it. They go by a call for services that they saw that nobody can substantiate.
Well,
now look, I don't want to.
Are you suggesting that there's some menace out there who's harassing your client, who's calling in these number of services?
It's happened on many occasions. There you go. You hear the voice from the crowd who are here, we could put them all on to say it doesn't happen. You don't have any evidence that it had anything to do with the place either. You jump on the wrong side of it.
Well, all that I have here is a document.
That's it.
That reports calls for service. Okay.
To
the way
where?
the way that well,
Chairman, to where?
They all say the location with scant exception. They all say the location is 225 Park Avenue.
And all
There's
the
one
ones
that
from
says 220, another one that says 219, one that says 200. Others, but all the others all say 225. The only interpretation I have of this is that on these occasions, there were calls to the police department reporting these various different incidents, and the police came out and responded to it. That's all that I take that as.
It has no arrest?
If you're going to take that further and suggest that these are all manufactured by some
I didn't say
menace.
that. I didn't
well,
say
I asked.
No, but I mean,
I said, are you suggesting that
I
there's
don't know why you
someone
want to
who's
argue with me on the closing argument. I'll
I'm just trying
get
to
into
understand what your
I'm
position
trying to understand that none of these are made on personal observation or personal knowledge. You have police come to testify. Yes, you're not new to this.
Mm-hmm.
They would come down and say, this is a really problem block. We come down here, here's what happened. We have to lock up this guy. We have to lock that guy. You don't have any of that. No, it is true. And then if you could calls to service to, like he said, Lexington Market, around the corner there's tremendous. My office is on Fayette and St. Paul. Not 5 minutes every day is a siren don't go by there. What does that mean? It means that there's a call for service somewhere. There's no personal knowledge of anything that's here. I think it's a little disingenuous to say.
But more fundamentally, though, I mean, there's all that kind of stuff that's going on, sort of on the periphery. But there's the sort of threshold question of whether it meets the requirements of what's being proposed.
Well,
so in order to be an after-hours establishment, it has to either be like a banquet hall or a restaurant.
Or a casino.
No.
Yes, they're open 24 hours, and you can't tell me that's not after hours.
No.
Don't tell me it's not. Yeah, just say it for the record. Give it to me.
It's not an after-hours establishment.
It's not an after-hours. Okay. Well, that would fool me.
So under the code, you have to be either banquet hall, but they already said, or private club, and they already said that that they're not intending to have membership. They're going to be open to the general public, so they can't be either of those. Other thing you have to be is, only other thing you could be would be a restaurant, and they said that they would have like some prepared food that people could come and buy, some packaged chips and cookies and things like that, maybe some energy drinks and sodas. But that sounds also sort of like a 7-Eleven, and a 7-Eleven is not a restaurant. I heard nothing about wait staff, heard nothing about actual people preparing meals.
Is 7-Eleven open after hours?
Yes,
okay.
They are. I remember when I lived in Mount Vernon, there was a 7-Eleven that was located right on the corner from me. It was open 24 hours a day.
Right. I know exactly. But I mean,
what I'm saying is that while I can appreciate that there's all this sort of noise in the periphery about, public safety, et cetera, there's been sort of something's been missed here, that as I've heard the testimony, that what they really sort of want is just like a place where people can come and hang out late at night, which sounds nice.
Well,
but I'm not sure that meets the.
I don't know if you've ever been to Paradox. Were you ever at Paradox? I know you must have been there because it's an after-hours place. They had none of the things you talked about. It's a place that was at 1722 Charles. That's been there after hours. They don't have any of that. So if you go by what the after-hours places are, you had Uncle Lee's. I know you've been there because I got the after-hours for that. And so that meets all the criteria where these young people that are the lifeblood of our communities here, small business, want to go, and they want to go out after hours. And you have a group that says all these things why they shouldn't, but nothing is substantive about it on it. And if you're saying is, hey, these other places can do it and they can't, or the casino is not after hours, or I don't know where it is. You mentioned hookah. You can't find hookah anywhere. Tell me where is it a code anywhere? Does it exist? Absolutely. We absolutely know it exists. And the people come down and they're saying, we're not taking a position or anything, but we're against it. Wait a minute. What is it, like a 2-4 if reverse? What are you telling me here? I'm taking a position, but I'm against it. These people took their time to come down here. Well, who was opposed to it? Oh, they want to give their name. Okay. Who was it called to report? We don't know. So all you have is all these letters that come. If, in fact, letters are the way you want to do things in the future, just tell me that. I'll get you letters. You'll have tons and tons and tons of letters. Like, prove it's a real Santa Claus. They'll come with bags and bags of them. But I think in this case here, and you don't have anything where there are any arrests in the place. Was the fire department here? Is the housing department here? You don't have any of that. They've been there for 4 years. They're there by themselves. It's a desert there. They're trying to improve the area. Why do you have to beat them up? Give them a chance. You were here. Let me tell you something. I think it's on Pumphrey Street. You're saying, oh, they do this, you can violate me. It's the same thing. If they don't do it right, you violate them. You go through the same thing. But, you know, they deserve the same right as everybody else.
I'm recalling the Pumphrey Street case, that was a as of right use, but.
Well, that was heart-wrenching. But in this case here, you know, I think they're eliminated their days in operation. They got parking, they got everything else. You know, food, if you don't like the type of food, I mean, you know, I don't know, what is it you want? We have the full buffet, what they're supposed to have on the thing.
Something about a buffet.
But is there a buffet?
I didn't hear any testimony.
No, but I'm saying, do you want a buffet? I don't understand why you.
I'm
where
not
do you,
the one
Where do
with
you
the
go?
burden.
But you see that nobody else is talking to me except you.
You know how this works.
I know how it works.
Your client has the burden.
And I think.
And you have to satisfy that burden.
And I'm trying to explain to you that they didn't satisfy that. The people who are opposing it, they didn't say they don't have this. Nobody's been in the place. None of them stop in. Nobody has seen it. None of the people testified said they've been in it. They don't. But it's all bad. You know, don't go there, it's bad. They testified what they were going to do. They spent a couple $100,000. They want to go ahead and do it. And they're not going to go ahead and put a full kitchen and everything in there if, in fact, they don't have the opportunity to go ahead and do that. And they certainly appeal to a certain segment of the population who wants to come out, you know, after hours. We're never going to be a Washington, D.C., where you can stay up to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Never. Because this city won't never let it happen. They won't let it happen. And I think they proved it in this case here, and you can't go on innuendo and letters that are coming in when nothing was substantiated. So that's really my closing. And I would thank all these people for coming down here, because they said the things that you're saying and seeing happen, they are visibly there every night, and they don't see it happen. And they don't like a letter that comes in because somebody said this is not a letter of support, it's just a form letter. Well, what is the BDC letter is? It's a form letter that they put up. I mean, their letter's okay, but my letter's not okay. And I'll end with that, and you'll make the decision one way or the other.
Nick?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Crush at 3 o'clock.
Abby.
All right. 2017-149 and 2017-150. 628 Belnord Avenue, Travis Lockman.
He's apparently been working hard.
Come up. You waited this long, you might as well come up.
Sure thing. All right, Mr. Lockman, we have this, appeal number 149. We have an application to construct a two-story rear addition with rear and rooftop decks at that location. And for 628 Belnord, that's appeal number 150. We have that also as an application to construct a two-story rear addition with rear and rooftop decks at that location. Are those descriptions correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and you two had a conversation, I guess you have opposition that appeared. You two were able to have a discussion. Was that discussion at all fruitful?
Somewhat, but we weren't able to completely resolve.
Okay. All right, just want to know sort of how we're going to proceed. All right, if all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And ma'am, your name for the record?
Nicola Consi, and I live at 625 South Lakewood Avenue, which is the property directly behind these two properties in question. So a different address, but we have a commonality.
Gotcha. Get the last name? All right. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, we have a letter from Kenton Community Association in reference to both properties. A review of these plans indicates that they are quite straightforward and do not raise any concerns with our committee. We understand that efforts have been made to personally notify the immediate adjacent neighbors of the proposed renovations and that the property has been posted for more than 3 weeks. We have not received notice of any concerns from any neighbors. Consequently, Please be advised that the Canton Community Association supports the variance application for these proposed projects.
Planning Department has no comment on either of these applications. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lockman.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us what's being proposed here?
Sure. So I'll just start by mentioning that there was, at one of these properties, you guys may or may not know, there was a just pretty terrible fire. I believe it's originated at 628.
No, the fire was in 626.
Okay, 626. Smoke damage was bad enough that it affected the properties immediately adjacent on both ends. We have acquired 626 and 628. 628, where the fire originated, is just like completely charred. Sorry, I keep mixing where the fire originated. But in any case, one of them is 100% charred. We're planning on, in both, since we have two adjacent properties, doing the same exact plan, which is to just construct a 12 by 12 rear addition with a deck off the rear of the second story that then walks up to a roof deck, which I believe any addition essentially at this location would trigger a hearing almost because of the lot size, which is roughly around 64. So just given the length and width of the house, this is sort of the plan we designed to be, I guess, most beneficial in the footprint that we thought we could build within.
Okay. See on the first floor, you've got an addition that's 9 by 12, and second floor 12 by 12, and off the rear looks like it's a 8-foot deck. I guess it's actually a stair that comes up to a 12-foot deck that will be over the second floor addition.
That's right.
So your stairs are on the property line in the back, it looks like?
They're about 5 feet from, so the edge of the rear deck is about 5 feet from the property line. And
What the stairs itself look like, they look, from this drawing, they look like they're starting at the property line. It says 8-foot alley.
yeah, is that A2?
Yeah, A1, I'm sorry.
Let me pull that up, I have that with me. So just based on the full length of, I think if you,
It's showing a 63-foot width of the lot, and it looks like your steps are right at the edge of that 63 feet.
okay. Yeah, I was sort of under the impression that they were about 5 feet back at the rear deck. Are those the steps you're mentioning?
Yeah.
Okay, that overhang then?
Yeah, if you want to look at the drawing, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I see what you're saying.
Drawing for both properties is the same.
Okay. Yeah, that is correct then.
Okay.
Okay. Is that it for right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, ma'am?
Hi. So
Pull that microphone around.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I only found out about this construction, I mean, obviously there was the fire, which was tragic because somebody did lose their life. But there's a board that's posted on the exterior of the home talking about, the fact that this is under appeal and that we'd be having this hearing. So I tried to dig a little further, and I wasn't involved in the community association, and their recommendation. I live directly behind these two properties, so mostly behind 626, but because 628 is adjacent and the houses don't align, there are fewer houses on my block, my property does go over both lines. And this addition is really going to go to the edge of the property line. When we were talking about this later, because I am interested in coming up with an amicable arrangement, Travis indicated that it was 5 feet back, and now that you've seen the plans, I just saw something on an iPhone, so it was a little difficult to see. It going to the edge of the property, and the second floor addition literally going to the edge. The fact that Belnord is on a higher elevation than Lakewood means that this addition.
Well, I don't
which
think
is-
that the second floor addition goes to the edge.
Well,
I
the
think just
entire
the deck
structure.
does.
So you have 12 feet coming out, and then I think you have an additional 8 feet with the deck.
Yes.
So I have photographs of the entire alley, and I really think it's gonna be kind of a looming addition altogether when you account for it. And I appreciate that I live in the city and that people have roof decks, but people are literally gonna be able to peer over into my garden. I'm not in a position to do a roof deck myself, so I've spent some time and some resources to build out a little garden so that I can enjoy the outdoors. And, you know, we don't have a scale model, but my impression of these designs is that people are gonna have a bird's eye view into my garden because the addition sticks out so far, so they're gonna have deck space as well as the house. So if you look at the alley, I mean, the fact that it's taking up pretty much the entire backyard, I think is significant. I think there's, you know, impacting my experience of my own garden. I know my neighbor has also, 2 houses down, built some outdoor space, so it's in the vicinity. And then, long-term, I think there's some impact on my ability to sell my house when there's such a structure that's really looming and there's nothing else like that in the alley. So, I appreciate that, you know.
Jump in a second here, ma'am.
Mhm.
So
Which
this
is my
is
house.
626 here. Is this yours? This is, looks like it's
Yes,
roughly.
That's,
Okay.
that's my house, yeah.
All right.
So you can see that the bottom part of that starts to go over to the 628 property.
Yeah.
So.
The bottom part of what goes over 628 for a second?
I'm sorry, do you want me to point?
Sure.
So, this is my house here, and that's my little garden, and I have some photos as well.
Uh-huh.
This is 626, and you'll see that the southern edge of my property also, you know, goes a little beyond.
Yeah, they're not perfectly lined up.
It's not perfectly lined up. So, and then there's also the impact of the sunlight that I'm
Mhm.
then gonna be receiving. So the further out the structure is, the later, you know, it will take a lot longer for the sun to come down. So I have some concerns. You
Okay.
know, I mean, I certainly think it minimizes property to
Right.
some extent.
So what was your request in terms of an amicable solution?
Well, it's difficult for me to say long-term when I try to go to sell my house. You know, I'm not a Realtor. Travis is under the impression that there's no bearing on it, but I feel differently. I mean, I'm obviously an invested homeowner. He represents a company that does a lot of good work in the neighborhood in terms of improving properties, so I'm all for that. But I also don't want to be sitting in my house and feel like I'm being spied on. So he offered up a slight home improvement to my house, but from a compensation standpoint, I thought it was well under, you know, what might be, I think, appropriate to make me feel better about the whole situation. Because should this go through, every time I'm going to be sitting in my garden, and I appreciate that I'm just like one person, this structure, which is pretty much the entire length of the property, and it's going to stick out considerably from any other house in the alley, and I have some photos if you would like to see kind of what that's going to look like, will be significant. So, I mean, he said that was his best offer, and that's not really kind of what I had in mind, and that's where we kind of got stuck. I don't know if you are interested in any of the photos, and I can sort of talk about what we're
Sure.
at stake here. So this is looking down the alley, and you'll see that some of the houses just have decks, but nothing has a significant 12-foot structure jutting out and then having a deck on beyond that. This
May
is
I?
just- Yeah, absolutely.
So where, in this drawing, where is your house?
Well, I'm standing at the edge of my property, so these are the houses on Belnord. So these would be the houses that get bigger numbers. So that's probably gonna be 628, that will be 630, and like, this is probably my little gate, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So,
But the reason I'm asking is if I'm up on one of these decks, I'm looking down on your yard.
yes, to some extent, but you're also not.
And right
you know,
directly across.
I mean, this is the house that's in question that's obviously had the fire, it's burned out. And so you can see there's really, I'm standing here in my garden, not that much distance. So you have the alley, and then you have the 20 feet, and they're gonna be coming right out. So, yes, we're in the city, and people have roof decks and that type of thing. But this is enormous structure, and it's gonna be right on top of me. So I'm not averse to having something maybe that's more modified, if they wanna make some better accommodation to me. I'm willing to have a conversation about that, but I felt that what they offered, which maybe has a cost to them of $1,500 and doesn't really do that much to improve my property when is gonna be minimized by this, wasn't really I don't wanna say fair, but I don't, lack of another word, suitable.
Well, we're gonna make a decision today
Yeah.
on this, so, I mean, if you all are you still trying to talk, or you sound like you're still open?
I'm still
But we're,
open, I just think that
if you
the
want us to make a
offer-
decision, we will. As Mr. Washington
Sure.
said, neither one of you may be happy with what we decide, so that's why we give people the opportunity to try to work something out.
I'm willing to certainly discuss this. I mean, I think that, you know, they could certainly make a slightly more generous offer. You know, I don't want to prevent somebody from making an improvement to a home, but, I mean, if you look at the alley, nothing else is like this. This is really gonna stick out and significantly change sort of what the footprint is, and then maybe long-term everyone's gonna be lots and lots of houses. So, you know, I mean, this is the back of these houses, nothing
Okay.
has that.
Let me jump in for a second. Do you think that well, two questions. First of all, this depicts the view looking down the alley from your house?
Yes, I was looking at the south, and so if you turn 90 degrees, you'd be directly behind the house where they're planning on doing the addition.
Okay. Thanks for orienting me for that. And next question is, as Mr. Bonaventure said, it sounds like you're still receptive to having a discussion. Do you think that it would be useful to have, say, 15 more minutes before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
I am open, but I just feel that what they offered really wasn't appropriate in terms of the long-term impact to my house. So, I mean, if he's willing to entertain something a little bit more
We can't
robust.
force either one of you to talk, but if you think it's fruitful, you know, we have a couple other cases, you have, until we're finished with these cases, that's how much time you have.
That's right.
All
right,
Let's see
so,
if we can come up with a resolution. I mean, I would like that. I mean, I think if everyone's happy, that makes the most sense to me. So.
okay, what I was gonna
It's up to you,
propose-
and you don't have to if you don't want to. You look like you don't
Right.
want to.
I mean, personally, because we had a pretty long conversation, I thought we had enough time to pretty much go through all the options. In my mind, I don't think there's any more ground to be gained personally from
Okay.
further
All right.
discussions now. I think I'd rather just discuss here with you guys and see what what resolution you're able to come to. And if I might just add a couple things, sort of in the course of the process that we have as a business, we speak to the adjacent neighbors. I think maybe now we'll start going across the alley as well, but we do our best, and we of course spoke to neighbors on either side who were both in support. We also brought it in front of the Canton Community Association via that support letter that you guys received. And I think of the number of concerns that you have, one of which is property value. Just from selling 40 to 50 homes in the neighborhood, I haven't seen any decrease in value due to a rear addition in the past for folks across the alley. If anything, we're taking a house that's probably worth $100,000 right now and probably tripling that due to it being worth nothing and giving it a full rehab. And then the last point I have regarding your privacy is, like you guys saw in the photos, there's a ton of decks, roof decks all over the place in the adjacent neighbors. This one, although it is directly behind, I don't think it really changes the fact that it's completely speculative to say who's going to live there. And I think for the most part, the folks that we sell homes to, I can't say, and no one can say with certainty, but I wouldn't say, you can say that someone's just going to stand and watch you from your yard.
No,
Like,
I'm not
that's-
suggesting that, but, he contends that they'll be selling to upscale neighbors who are gonna have a very quiet lifestyle for the most part. And I can tell you on my street, there were a couple rehabs, and, a nice-looking young gentleman moved in and brought 2 roommates and had parties every weekend. So you can't always say that it's, these people are gonna be going up and down on the roof deck. There's not a bar up there, so that means that they're starting in the kitchen and going up 2 floors, because very likely they'll be having some cocktails up there. And so, I just need to be looking out for my house. I'm a single homeowner, and I want to be thoughtful about the future. And, I think that redoing some of these homes is certainly a good idea. I think it brings things up in the neighborhood. But this will be looming over my property. I mean, it juts out significantly. You know, they didn't suggest that we'd scale it back a little bit. You know, he said, well, we need to have 2 bathrooms because that's the only way that it really works with these houses to have the right kind of value. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't think about the people living behind the houses. I mean, you know, of course you'd have the conversations on either side.
If I
but
can, for a minute. Mr. Lockman, you're with Charm City Builders, that's correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm familiar with some of your designs because there are a few by where I live. And I know that in some of your houses, you've utilized an alternative design where instead of having a exterior stair going up to the roof deck, you've used an interior stair going up to the roof deck. And in a case like this, it seems like what the issue is here between the two of you is this overhanging deck as it comes out and comes along the property line. Have you investigated the possibility of an alternative design with these houses?
We have, and we kind of discussed that a bit, and sort of the issue here is that because this house is only 12 feet, and there's a required 36-inch hallway, to get that additional stair width would trim down the room size so much that it almost would eliminate, you know, the useful space of the house, because the other stairwell that goes up kind of presses out the space a little bit more when you do an internal, we call them pop downs.
Yeah.
But another thought that I had, but it didn't seem that it would be quite something that you would be interested in, was maybe even shortening that rear deck and then adding, instead of the L-shaped design with this pressure-treated lumber, doing a spiral staircase. In which case, that's really the purpose of the rear deck in the first place, is just to almost to get up to the roof. So I think we could be totally happy cutting it, you know, even 4 feet in half. That way, it's 4 feet further from the property line, and then we would propose a spiral instead of the L. I mean, maybe that'd be something.
I'm willing to entertain that, but we're still talking about a 12-foot addition, which sticks out from the house and is significant enough because it takes up about half the space that's there, and, you know, it's now space that's being used up where there is no space. So, I mean, I don't have a little architectural model because I only became aware of what the exact plans were today, and, you know, I was informed that it didn't really quite go to the edge of the property, but it does, it sounds like.
It goes 59 feet, but it's like 63, I think, is
the entire structure. So whether it's a deck or then a house is obviously solid, the deck is a little bit more open, but it would be a very noticeable presence. And, you know, I know some of my neighbors on my side aren't terribly excited about it. I didn't bring a whole bunch of people here. There's an impact to my house long-term. And, you know, there's an impact to how I'm enjoying the garden I've put in, and I don't know. I mean, I just sort of feel that it might have been nice to have been part of an original conversation. I wasn't, and so, I mean, that's
Mr. Bones, that you said a little bit ago, we're gonna vote today, so.
We're gonna make a decision.
That sounded like a compromise on the appellant's behalf.
So, I mean, would you consider putting back the structure a little bit? I mean, does it have to be 12 feet? Could it be 10 feet? Could it be 9 feet? I mean, the downstairs is only 9 feet. I mean, if the structure could be a little less and the deck could be somewhat reduced, and so like the entire thing gets moved back, what would half the deck be? That's 4 feet, and if you could bring the house back like 3 feet, so that would be 7 feet. I mean, is that something that's workable?
I would.
Well, let me suggest, we've got other people, that's why I said, if you want to talk, we have other people waiting to be heard, so why don't you have enough time until we hear these cases, then we'll call yours and we'll make a decision.
Can you entertain that for a few more minutes?
Okay.
All right. Before you go away, let me call you in your other case. This one isn't located by you.
Yeah, different
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry. Not 628.
Sure. Gonna call 2017-175, 1224 South Highland Avenue. This appeal also is Travis Lockman. Mr. Lockman, you're still under oath from your prior appeal. We have this as an application to construct first and second floor rear additions and third and fourth floors with rear rooftop decks onto a single-family attached dwelling. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, we have a report from the Canton Community Association. A review of these plans indicates that they are quite straightforward, except for the height variance request. Since the height variance is minimal, the proposed fourth level is well set back from the front and is about half of the floor area of the third level, and the appellant has obtained the consent of the immediate neighbors. This and the other variances requested do not raise any concerns with our committee.
Looks like you're
And
the
they
last
have it-
house on the block here.
We're one from it.
Yeah,
One
okay.
from it.
Yeah,
And
okay, yeah.
we have the two informed consents from the residents at 1222 and 1226 indicating that they have no complaints about the proposal.
Planning Department has no comment on this application either.
Okay. Mr. Lockman, why don't you tell us about this appeal?
Yeah, sure. This appeal is similar to a house that we've got just 5 doors up at 1214. It's actually the same model that passed through here maybe 2 months ago. Anyhow, I think.
Somebody must have
Left one.
Oh.
Either that or somebody sending a torpedo at us.
Thanks.
I've watched too many movies.
There.
Can we leave with the guard downstairs?
Yeah, so we can say, can you take it downstairs? Thanks. You can give it to Mr. Baumgartner. He'll take it down to the security desk downstairs.
It's the Find My iPhone.
Oh, is it?
Uh-huh.
That's what?
Find my iPhone.
Somebody's looking for it.
Broken anyway.
Okay. All right. Now you are seeking to go to a height of 38 some odd feet.
That is correct. And I think the top of our 4th story reaches that 38 feet height. Just get
Yeah,
pull
as I
up
see
the
it
plan as
here.
well here. 12, 24.
Yeah. It's your total height is 38 feet 5.5 inches.
Correct.
So you're 3 feet 5.5 inches over. You got first floor height of 8 feet 6 inches, second floor height 8 feet. Of course, there's the little bit of crawl space or the footer, what have you, between floors. Third floor height of 8 feet 5.5 inches. That and then your 4th floor is what pushes you over. And in the 4th floor, you've got proposed there a deck, a wet bar, a den, and I think an island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of a room that opens to a walkable roof rather than a deck structure.
Yeah. You've got a total building length of 57 feet. And the den with wet bar is just shy of half of that, at 23 feet and 6 inches. I note that because while there is a exception in the code for permitted protrusions within certain dimensions, you're well in excess of that. So you're not seeking. I guess what is being sought here is a pure height variance. All right, and why do you need the den and wet bar with island out onto the walkable roof for the 4th floor?
Well, I guess there's a few things. One, we thought it was a neat feature to add just to this specific home, given that there's homes on this block already that were 4 stories. So there was several homes that were 4 stories. These houses didn't have basements. So generally, we may be able to get some space like this in a basement. In this case, we weren't able to do that without some pretty, I guess, considerable construction. So we thought while we're gonna build a 3rd story, we'll just build the 4th here. Thought it would be a neat feature, and yeah, I don't think we have any other.
Okay. Any questions? Nope. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a seat, and we'll call you guys back after we get through a couple of these other cases. But before we do that, that's the end of the 3 o'clock docket, and we'll take a 5-minute break. So that
We do 134, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, got to push. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. All right, calling the last case from the 3 o'clock docket, 2237 Essex Street, appeal number 2017-134, Nate Prettle.
3/5 p.m. docket.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Prettle, we have this an application to construct 1st and 2nd floor rear additions and new 3rd floor with stair penthouse to rooftop deck as a single-family attached dwelling, formerly a tavern. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and further, as I understand it, the parties in this case have reached an agreement by which the opposition, ma'am, your name, please?
Yeah,
Your name?
oh, Kim Powers.
Okay.
Sorry.
And Ms. Powers, by that agreement, you've withdrawn your opposition to this case, and pursuant to your agreement, are in support of it, conditioned on the matters that have been agreed to between the parties. Is that correct?
Yes, I
Okay.
just wanted to come here today to make sure that it was on record, so.
All right,
yeah.
good. And I guess for the record, if you want to state, well, I guess why don't we get you sworn in first, and then we'll get to the terms of it.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and Ms. Powers, the terms of the agreement as you understand them?
Well, just, I guess the basic way is that they're going to be covering 2 of my windows.
Okay.
The building actually will literally touch my windows, but they were in agreement that I would be okay with it if they would fill in my windows and fill it in from the inside and finish it so it doesn't look like windows were ever there. And then in that case, I'm fine with it.
Okay, and Mr. Prettle, is that the agreement as you understand it?
Yeah, that's the agreement. I think the fine details are still being worked out by the Donovan Development Group or the property owners, developers, and Ms. Powers. But yeah, that's the extent of it. They will be doing some work, I think some drywall, filling in the windows, and some other maybe cosmetic things that they will work out. But yes, we're all in agreement.
Okay, all right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department with respect to this appeal?
Okay. We have a
He doesn't
letter.
microphone anymore.
It's all mine. We have a letter from the Kenton Community Association. They write that they are not happy with the proposed stairway penthouses and feel that they are unnecessary visual obstructions, but we recognize that they fall within the exception provided for in section 3-213 of the zoning code. Otherwise, please be advised that the Canton Community Association is pleased to see the extinguishment of a non-conforming use, and we have no objection to the requested variances. And then we have planning's report.
Planning's report is they have no comment upon this application. Thank you.
All right. Okay. And I think that we can, I guess, with pursuant to the agreement, we can, because I think that this initially was a consent case, so we can process this as a consent matter, incorporating the terms of the agreement. So the zoning board staff, having reviewed your application, we determined that there is sufficient information to approve this appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, that ends the 3 o'clock docket, and we will now call our 5 o'clock docket. All right, before we get underway with, geez, I just realized I don't have this one. I guess mine is over there. There we go. Before we get underway, a few house rules first. First, if you have a cell phone, a pager, any other kind of electronic device that makes any sort of electronically generated sound, plays a ringtone, chimes, beeps, etc., we ask at a minimum you please turn those devices to a vibrate only, if not off position. Similarly, to the extent that you need to have a conversation with someone, we ask that you please take that conversation out the double doors to your rear. The reason for those rules is pretty simple and straightforward. First, conversations, cell phones, pagers, noise in general, and the like emanating from the gallery not just are disruptive to the general conduct of these proceedings, but also disturb the recording of these proceedings as well. You know that there are a number of microphones which are arrayed around us up here. Those microphones are not only for the purpose of amplification, but also for the purpose of recording. Additionally, those of you who are seated forward of the wall above you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 video cameras which are mounted on the wall behind you there. There are 1, 2 video cameras which are mounted on the wall up here behind us. And cell phones, pagers, conversations, noise in general also disrupt that process as well. These proceedings are being streamed live on the city's cable access, I guess the website for the city's cable access channel. And also recorded for broadcast on the public access channel and stored for posterity on the city's YouTube channel. So we don't want to disrupt that process, certainly. We'll be voting at the end of the day, and you're certainly more than welcome to hang around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose, but if you've got other things to do with your evening, that's certainly understandable, and you can call into the zoning board office in the morning and find out how we've ruled in your case. If you take out pen and paper, I can read off the number for the zoning board office to you. That number is 410-396-4301. That number again is 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written notice of the outcome of your case, which should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks before you'll be able to get your permit. We certainly ask that you please not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining all of your proper permits. Next, if you are in opposition to any case today, we ask that you please sign in on our sign-in sheet, which I think actually I have. The sign-in sheet allows us generally to know, pass it down, generally to know which cases have opposition, also allows us to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I just referred to. Additionally, to the extent that there are any matters which are postponed, we need to know how to contact you and let you know when those cases will be going forward. So if you are here in opposition to any case today, please make sure that you've signed in on our sign-in sheet. The procedure for when the cases are called is that the appellant will come forward and the opposition, if any, will come forward when the case is called. The appellant will stand to our left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to our right or your left. Once everyone is up here, we'll get you all sworn in, and we'll first turn to the appellant, who will be given the opportunity to present the case, answer any questions which the board may have, present any documents, witnesses, etc., in support of their position, and also respond to any questions which may be brought up by the board. Once they've concluded their presentation, we'll turn to the opposition, if any, who will be given their opportunity to do the same, present their documents, witnesses, et cetera. Once the opposition is concluded, we'll then return back to the applicant, who will be given the opportunity to respond to any points brought up by their opposition, and to offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth and necessarily delaying things and keeping folks here longer than is necessary. Next, we'll be calling the cases generally in the order in which they appear on our docket, once we dispense first with some preliminary issues. The first, I don't think we have any postponements, at least not as of yet, so we can skip to the cases which are on our consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed the files in these appeals and determined that there is sufficient information to approve these appeals on a consent basis. We'll call all the consent cases together as a group, and once you're all up here, we'll get you sworn in as a group and call each case in turn. Once everyone is sworn in and your case is called, that will be your opportunity to present any supplemental information that you would like to provide at that time. The first person on the consent agenda can come up and stand here. Everyone else can line up down the dais behind them. First case on the consent agenda is 2017-137, 823 South Linwood Avenue. That's Nate Prettle. Next is 2017-179, 2800 through 2810 Edison Highway, Carlton Gilbert. And finally, 2017-180, 207 South Chapel Street, Frank Federico.
I think there may be opposition on that.
Oh, there's opposition to which?
180.
180, okay, Mr. Federico, you can have a seat. All right, if all those intending to give testimony can please raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Mr. Prettle, we have, your case is 2017-137, this is 823 South Linwood Avenue. We have that as an application to remove the first floor rear addition and construct a two-story rear addition. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. And Mr. Prettle, is there anything further you would like to add to supplement the record in your case?
I would just add that after postponing this case at the last hearing to make some revisions based on comments from the neighbor, we removed a proposed third floor and a slightly enlarged second floor. The attorney for the neighbors was here earlier. I think he communicated his agreement to board staff, and we're happy that we were able to work things out.
Okay, so we're amending this down from 3 to 2-story rear addition, correct?
That's correct. Per the amended plans submitted to the zoning board staff.
Okay, and we have those in the file?
Yes.
All right, anything further?
No.
All right, zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2017-179, 2800 through 2810 Edison Highway, Carlton Gilbert.
Yes, good afternoon. Evening.
Afternoon, Mr. Gilbert.
Yes.
Or evening, as it were. We have this an application to add 8 antennas to existing rooftop telecom facility with fenced ground equipment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department recommends approval of this application subject to these conditions. The antennas and related equipment must be painted to match the building to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. The panel antennas and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in the plans and elevations submitted to planning. And the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect as specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Gilbert, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
All right. And is there anything further you would like to have added to the record this time?
No, that's it.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll call the cases which are on the remainder of our docket. That will include at least the one case where opposition is signed in. Were there any more?
All 3 of them.
All three? Okay, thank you. So I guess all three cases have opposition. So frequently we found that it is useful to offer the parties, well, frequently we found that there's that opposition is a result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication amongst the parties. And it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to have a dialogue between themselves to see if they can't come to some resolution of whatever issues are between them, which are in dispute. Obviously, if there are two parties in a dispute and the parties ask the board to resolve the dispute, one of those parties is bound to go away disappointed with the result. So this is your opportunity to avoid that unhappy fate. We're going to call off the cases where there's opposition, which is signed in, and ask whether or not the parties have had any discussion and whether they would like to have a discussion. You're certainly not required to have a discussion with one another, but we certainly do encourage and appreciate it. First case where there's opposition, which is signed in, is 2017-146, 143 West Randall Street. Mr. Prettle? Okay, and ma'am, have you spoken with Mr. Prettle about this case? Yes? Okay. Any desire to continue to talk, or you ready to go forward?
Yeah, well, I think we've had enough discussion. We're at a point where probably just go forward.
Okay, all right, have a seat. Next is 2017-168, 3233 through 3241 O'Donnell Street. This is also Mr. Prettle.
I was going to be postponing this case. I believe there was someone in opposition.
Okay.
Who already left.
Oh, okay. All right, so 2017-168, 3233 through 3241 O'Donnell Street is postponed. All right, and 2017-180, 207 South Chapel Street. And who signed in that case? Okay, and have you folks had any discussion? Or would you like to have a discussion?
Sure.
Okay, just step out the double doors to your rear and let us know when you're ready to go forward. Okay, calling 2017-146, 143 West Randall Street. And before we jump into that, what happened with the folks from?
They're still talking.
They're still talking?
Yeah, I think they're right outside there.
Okay. All right, so long as they're still talking. All right. Mr. Prettle, we have this as an application to construct a new 3-story, single-family attached dwelling with rooftop access. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, do we have staff reports?
For Randall, we have a letter of first I've seen it.
Just 1 minute, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No, it indicates that it is a welcome addition to the 100 block of West Randall Street.
Yeah, that's a letter from whom?
From Eugene Poverny.
That's the developer.
Okay.
I can speak to that letter.
Okay.
I submitted that to the board.
Oh, okay.
The Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Prettle, why don't you tell us a bit about what's being proposed here?
Sure. Good evening. Nate Prettle, AB Associates. I'm here on behalf of Eugene Paverny, who's the property owner and developer. I mentioned he was also the developer of the Heath Street Lofts, which is a 60-unit apartment building about a block south of this. So the proposal here is to build a 3-story single-family dwelling at 143 West Randall, which is on the southwest corner of Randall and Race Street. Race Street is unique in that it borders the CSX rail right-of-way, and so this is sort of the end of the line in the South Baltimore neighborhood. The proposal is for a 52-foot deep structure, 3 stories with a roof pop-up. I will note that the plans are being amended. The structure you see on your floor plans, the 4th floor, has some space that I would not consider stair access only. After speaking with my client, we will be changing that so it meets the zoning code's guidelines, not seeking a height variance, less than 25%, and stair access only. So it'll be smaller, and I'll submit revised plans reflecting that. And we're one unique situation about this is we're also requesting a minor privilege approval to go into the city right-of-way along the sidewalk on Ray Street. An application's been submitted through discussions with the DOT, who administers the right-of-way. They said that will be approved or commented on at the same time the building permit is submitted. So currently, I've not had any indication that's something they're not going to approve, and that's something that's kind of outside what the zoning code will speak to. But in relation to what we're here for today is for a lot coverage and a rear yard setback variance. In terms of the rest of the block, which is, I would note, is a 2-story block, Ms. Rich lives 2 doors down. You'll hear from her in a minute. There's a vacant, dilapidated property in between this vacant lot and her property. Again, we're planning on going 3 stories, and we are planning on covering roughly 81% of the lot. We're asking for a variance for that. We're also providing a 12-foot rear yard setback. In terms of those variances being sought, essentially in line with what's already on the rest of the block. These houses are roughly 100-some years old. If they would have been built under this existing zoning code, they would have asked for the same relief that we're asking for. The average lot coverage on that block is between 70 to 90%. We're asking for 81%. The average rear yard setback is between 11 to 19 feet. We're asking for a 12-foot rear yard setback. And I would also note that in terms of this 3rd floor, which again is not part of the variance, we're under the 35 feet. I think we're roughly about 29 feet. Where the property is located on the very end of the western portion of the block would not impact, it has the least impact in terms of blocking anyone's view. Generally, when people are looking toward, if they have a roof deck or anything, you're looking towards either the harbor or B, towards downtown. This would not be blocking anyone's view for either of those. It's literally right next to the train track after Ray Street. And you'll probably hear some comments from Ms. Rich about 3rd floors. I'll let her talk about that. But I'll mention there's this 80-foot building, the Heath Street Lofts, on the next block down, 1 block away. So this primarily is a 2-story this portion of the neighborhood, but again, that's not the reason for the variance we're seeking. I'll also mention that Ms. Rich was concerned, the majority of our conversation before we postponed was some concern for her property during construction. And that's what the letter that Mr. Henry was reviewing. It was a letter from our architect and engineering firm detailing the methods that will be taken to make sure that this dilapidated property, which is not owned by either Ms. Rich or my client, will not somehow fall into hers and cause her damage. And we're willing to work with her throughout that process. Again, any plans will have to be by a licensed architect or engineer. They'll have to be reviewed by the city. Everything that comes with getting a building permit in the city and the protections. I've also offered on my own time to contact code enforcement to try to see what the city can do to either issue citations or violations for this property owner and compel him to clean it up. And that's basically, again, I'll offer the property is unique, first of all, because it's the only vacant lot on this portion of Randall Street. Also, its proximity to the rail right-of-way makes it unique. And the hardship exemption really stems from the narrow width of the lot. It's only 12 feet wide. That's the real reason we need to project further into the rear yard, just as every other house on the block does. So I think I'll leave it at that unless anyone has any questions, or maybe I'll respond to Ms. Rich.
Okay. Ms. Rich.
So my name is Terry Rich. I live at 139 West Randall Street, just 2 doors down from this lot. My neighbors and I are concerned. One of my neighbors was present and had to leave. He did leave a letter. I'd like to see that.
Do we have that letter?
Yes.
Yeah, we can take that. Thank you. Are you seeing?
Yeah, sure. I did have a conversation with him. When she's finished, I'll mention.
So my personal concern is for my own property, my own building. There is a building attached to mine which has fallen into increasing disrepair. It was purchased by an investment company that I guess is no longer has a charter. They don't seem interested in doing anything to repair that, so I do have some concerns about adjoining construction to that causing damage to my property. In addition, I do have some concerns about 3-story projects on a 2-story block. Most of my neighbors have comparable concerns that it's not just about the view, although I think making suppositions about where people tend to look and where their view might be obstructed seems a little unusual, but 3-story projects on 2-story blocks in our neighborhood within 2 blocks of this project actually have caused damage to entire rows of buildings. And on Clarkson Street, 1 block over, that project caused damage to several houses in the row, digging out to build 3 stories up. And homeowners had extreme difficulty getting relief from that developer. And likewise on Hanover Street in the 1500 block. There were some problems with digging out and causing damage to buildings. I don't have any place to be if my building is damaged. My home office for my business is also there. The house has been in my family for 5 generations. So, it has a lot of sentimental value, which you cannot compensate me for if you should damage this building. So I have a lot of concerns, both between the dilapidated structure and the 3-story plans, which I think are, frankly, the building built in the 1600 block of Clarkson Street, and I do have some photographs of it, is an eyesore. It's out of keeping with the character of the neighborhood. It damaged a lot of homes, and I and my neighbors don't want that built. I mean, essentially, this is a 4-story construction because you're also building a deck on top of it. There are other rooftop decks in the row. I don't know how they feel about their views, but I'm sure that is a concern to them.
Can I have the letter back, just like?
Yes. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Did you want to say?
No, it's okay. I was okay. Ms. Bond, did you want to read it in the record?
Me?
Yes, sure. You barely get speaking roles.
Okay, this is from Aaron Weitzman, 126 West Randall Street. To whom it may concern, with respect to the application for building permit 2017-146, I apologize for not being able to attend, but I wish to voice my concerns regarding the planned property design. The architectural designs show a house that is nearly 40 feet tall, 4 stories with rooftop access, sitting in the center of a T-shaped neighborhood of 2-story homes. This property's size will disrupt the openness of the neighborhood, as 1600 Clarkson Street did when it was built among the 2-story homes there. This will overshadow and dwarf anything within these areas. I'm sympathetic to the new owner's financial plans to build a new property there. However, I do not concur that this is the proper place to build a structure of this size. My other concern includes the fact that 141 West Randall had 2 sections of the wall collapse, and when the stabilization of the property was done with cinder blocks, the blocks weren't placed on the existing foundation wall, which contained salmoning brick from extended years of vibration from the CSX and MARC trains across the streets, and poor quality bricks. This would lead me to believe that the rest of the wall is also unsound, considering that a portion of the collapse included the basement wall. I would suspect that the architecture and engineering should take into account the need to protect the neighboring properties in that aspect. Sincerely, Aaron Weitzman. It's not dated, but I'm assuming that this is recent.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Rich, was there anything further you'd like to add?
Yes, I'm also a little bit concerned about the property value of my home adjacent to 3-story property that makes the block rather unattractive. I'm also concerned about, of course, again, damage and the risk to my home.
Okay. All right. Mr. Brennan?
I'm going to try to very briefly address a couple points from them. And Mr. Rich, in speaking, Mr. Weitzman, I don't want to speak for him. He's not being here. When I communicated that this 4th floor pop-up was being reduced in size, he said he was much more likely to support that. I'm not going to say he wanted to support it, but in regards to the structural aspect, I'd point to this letter that Mr. Henry wrote, paragraph 4 specifically So the structural design we intend to implement is being built on its own foundation, which is being designed by a licensed structural engineer and submitted to Baltimore City Building Department, and will not rely in any way on the structure next door at 141 West Randall. It's also being built with concrete masonry blocks. So this concern about bricks and the vibration, I do not believe applies. Also, this mention of 1600 Clarkson Street, it's not a project that's in any way related to this client or this project, so I wouldn't, like to speak to that. Again, this 35-foot height limit, the height, again, is not really anywhere near 40 feet. The third floor roof is at 27 feet, and the top of what will be limited to stair access only is at 36 feet. So I think that's a little bit inaccurate. And again, we're asking for very slight variances to rear yard setback and lot coverage that are completely in line with what exists on the block. This is a unique property, a 12-foot wide property that provides for a hardship. And I would urge you to support the appeal. Some of these other things are completely subjective in terms of design and views. The R8 zoning district allows to go to 35 feet. We're going almost 8 feet under that for the third floor. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, I think that's all I have.
Okay, questions?
No?
All right, thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Some photographs that are of the property and also include photographs of 1600 Clarkson. I know that is not, it's not specifically this developer's concern, but our concern is by comparison that it's like
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I think their time is up.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have one more take.
We're gonna make a decision. The art of the deal.
Well,
Jay, you let your person know we're disappointed that she didn't think she was gonna stay the whole day. That was the expectation.
what kind of work ethic is that?
She's gonna roll with us, she's gonna have to.
Jeez.
It's only our first day. Cut her some
Sorry,
slack.
boss. I got places to be, things to do, people to see.
I told her to feel free to leave whenever she felt like it.
Did she stay 20 minutes?
I don't feel like it anymore.
Okay. Well, here's one of them.
Okay.
So we'll call 2017-180, 207 South Chapel Street, Frank Federico. Okay, Mr. Federico, we have this an application to construct a two-story rear addition at this location. Is that correct?
And correct, yeah, and I'd also like to just correct, my name is Nick
Okay.
Liparini. Frank Federico couldn't make it, so I'm here on his behalf.
Gotcha. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Liparini. All right. And you said that the description of, well, actually, I've got a little bit of a fuller description now that I looked at the data sheet. More accurately, it's described as an appeal to remove the existing first-floor rear addition and construct a wider two-story rear addition onto a single-family attached dwelling. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. If all those intending to leave testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm, raise your right hand, ma'am, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And ma'am, your name for the record?
My name is Eden No. Eden No. Maybe I shouldn't be so close, huh? Eden No.
Sure. Could you spell that last name?
It's N-O-E.
Okay. And, ma'am, are you going to be testifying as well?
No, her English isn't so good, so she does.
Okay. Are you going to be translating for her? Or are you, okay. All right. And can we get her name, by the way?
Her name is Hannah Kim.
Okay. All right, good. Do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Liparini, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
What we're proposing is a two-story rear addition that I believe essentially covers the entire lot. It's a small lot that only goes back 41 feet. We've built similar properties on Durham Street, so we're familiar with the alley streets and the construction of these homes. And, the addition's going to provide for enough room for an additional bedroom, so it'll be a 2-bedroom. It'll still be a small house, as houses in the, general area are concerned. The alley streets tend to be smaller houses, so it'll still be a relatively small home. And we feel that the need to use the entire lot in order to, provide enough room for 2 bedrooms, 1 full bath on the second level, and decent living space and a kitchen on the main level is the minimum that we need for the property.
Okay, is that it for now?
That's it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. So we own 205 and 209, which is on both sides of 207. And we oppose the rear addition because we believe that it will negatively affect both sides of the homes in terms of overshadowing the 2 homes. Already all 3 homes, actually most of the homes on this street are very small, and they already don't get that much light as it is because it's kind of small. And I think one structure that's in between these 2 smaller homes being so large will be overbearing and visually obtrusive. We also believe that there will be some loss of privacy, perhaps because the home will be able to peek into both of the existing homes on either side. And also, we believe that this street, because it's an alley street, there's already no parking, and it's very, very stressful. And if this house is a 2-story house and there's more residents living on it, then it's just going to add more to the congestion in terms of, finding parking and availability of parking. And we also feel that in terms of the design and scale, building a 2-story addition is going to, that extends completely all the way into the backyard, is going to be kind of incongruent to the existing structures, because like I said, visually, I think one building just sticking out is going to be awkward. And we don't think that, them selling the property, they already have a for sale sign on the unit, and, them trying to sell it for $250,000 or whatever is not necessarily positive for us either, because like I said, our homes are older and smaller, and in terms of the assessment, we feel that they're just going to try to assess our property at a higher value, even though our property is exactly the same. It's been for the last 150 years or whatnot. So we just oppose it because, like I said, we don't think that it's actually really going to be beneficial in any way to the block. The block is already very quiet and peaceful, and there's no other homes in the area that's going through some sort of major construction, so we kind of want to keep it that way.
Okay. Mr. Luperini?
I guess I would just question in terms of adding value to the neighborhood. We have similar properties that we've renovated in Upper Fells Point, and it winds up being at a pretty attractive price point for new home buyers, where they can get into a nice neighborhood in the $200 to $250 price range with the historic tax credit. Regarding the rear addition, it's the total footprint of the home is going to be 12 feet wide, 41 feet deep, which is a very small house. In terms of privacy and such, we're surrounded by 205 and 209. We're pretty much towered over by both of those properties. One of the properties, we share a party wall with 205, so there's not going to be any peeping in or any visibility between the party walls. And I don't believe there's any windows on the alley side. The other, it's like a narrow 2.5-foot alleyway between us and 209, and I don't believe there's any windows on that side of the house either. So I don't think that's gonna affect privacy for either of the properties. And in terms of property values, these are both investment properties for the opposition. Neither of them live in the properties, and I don't necessarily think it's a viable argument to try to keep property values low in the community. I think the goal would be to try to improve the area as much as possible, and so we try to do that. And this property's been sitting vacant for several years, which the roof's now caving in, water's getting into the property. So I think allowing the zoning and the addition in the back is only going to help the overall community, including this block.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, she would like to add something. I guess I was going to translate for her.
Okay, we kind of had your opportunity to talk, but okay, we'll go back on the record and we'll.
So we also own a house at 2218 Cambridge Street. And on either side, they extended like how he's proposing into the backyard. And basically, when they did the extension, it caused structural damage to our house, and they also have an adjoining wall. And also, it caused a tremendous amount of noise throughout the day, and so it caused a lot of complaints. And then it caused a lot of damage to the existing adjoining wall, and that's our predominant concern with the adjoining wall between 205 and 207, is that it's going to cause structural damage into our unit versus theirs, because they're going to put another another wall, I guess, to structurally support their unit, but then because they're doing the construction, it'll damage our wall.
Okay. Those kind of issues, though, are building code enforcement issues,
Yes.
which aren't really our
What we do.
jurisdiction, but I certainly do appreciate the input.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and last,
Marathon case.
yes, we'll recall 2017-149 and 2017-150, Travis Lockman. Okay, folks, was there anything further insofar as a resolution that you were able to reach, or you just where you?
I think we were just essentially where we were before.
Okay.
I feel like we got maybe a little bit closer, but we're still not quite seeing eye to eye.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Too.
Thank you.
Hold on.
We're gonna vote on it.
Can,
Yes.
but where they were, does that mean his pulling back where he left off?
I didn't hear that there was an agreement on that.
Can we call him back?
Mr. Lockman, parties, can you please come back here?
Just so we have clarity,
Yes.
in terms of where you left off the conversation, before we took the last break, there was conversation about the possibility of pulling back somewhat.
Right.
Was there any agreement as to reducing what was being proposed?
We discussed a 4-foot sort of shave off
I
that
get
root
that you
line.
discussed it, but was there any agreement?
I would have been fine to do that, but it didn't seem like that was enough for.
That's what I
Well,
thought.
the deck is one thing, but that's sort of like a see-through thing. It's that the house
Okay.
itself comes out.
Okay,
Just need
yes, I
clarity
just
on that.
need to find out if there was an agreement, and there's not. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. And we're off the record. All right, any particular ones that we want to talk about quickly? All of the 3 o'clock.
It was so long ago.
119?
119, yeah.
Sure, let's jump into that one.
Actually, I'm pretty clear on 119. I can just jump in.
Yeah.
I don't think they need the definition of an after-hours establishment. It's not one of the enumerated functions that's in the statute.
I agree. I'm with him.
The definition talks about dance halls, banquet halls, things like that. And
Private clubs or similar.
Similar establishments.
Right.
They really didn't testify about any of that.
They said that they wanted to be open to the general public, and they did not want to.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah, yeah. And so the only other thing that was available to them was his restaurant, and there,
Not a restaurant.
there was not, yeah, they're not a restaurant.
Okay. I'm keeping
Any others?
North Avenue. I missed as to whether that reverted back to single-family dwelling.
Wait, which number?
52 years.
173.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the existing code, not the new code.
I was okay with it.
I was okay too.
Yeah, I had that there was only.
So that's not a vacancy issue. What? Oh,
There you go.
if the board decides.
Yes.
That's fine.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you. And my wife thanks you. It means I'm that much closer to one. Any others?
My wife just thinks I stay up there a lot.
Oh.
75?
Yeah, I was okay with that, and I got to the uniqueness because of the lack of a basement. That's why he wanted to go up one more.
I didn't like that 4th floor.
I thought it was okay.
Oh, that's the way.
I was a yes as everything else, but not as to the 4th floor. It's just, well, I think that everyone wants a 4th floor. It's another pop-up with living space.
Yeah.
So. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Ready, Derek? Okay, 2016-201, 5100 Eastern Avenue, was by consent with Planning Department conditions. 2017-119, 223 through 225 Park Avenue, I'm a no.
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 2017-134, 237 Essex Street was by consent per agreement stated on the record between the parties. 2017-149 and 2017-150, 626 and 628 South Belnord Avenue. I'm a yes.
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 Yes. I don't know why she didn't take any off.
Yes. 2017-151, 3601 Garrison Boulevard was by consent. 2017-153, 1701 through 1703 Humphrey Street. I'm a yes with the condition that that all work be conducted inside the to-be-constructed building, including, is it sanding?
Sanding.
Yes. including sanding?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes, but we can't add the condition of putting the screening in the fence, right? It's not really germane to the appeal.
I don't know how we do that.
And I didn't get the sense that
It's just an
That the-
additional step with respect to the community. But
it is. I just didn't get the understanding that they had a problem with what was on the site, so long as it was going to be cleaned up. It was that, well, other than the grass, which was on that lot behind it.
Right.
But
I'm just projecting.
okay. But I think that the other issue I have is what Frank said, is I don't see how we would get there with it.
Okay.
The condition about all work being done inside is easy, because that's what they said they would do on the record.
Right.
Several times. 2017-154, 3602 Elm Avenue was by consent with planning department conditions. 2017-156, 2602 Green Mountain Avenue was by consent. And I guess you guys had conditions for outdoor table service, right? 2017-159, 701 through 725 Rapola Street was withdrawn. 2017-160, 1840 Gulf Street. I am a yes with, you guys have conditions on that one?
The only thing I had, yes,
Bye-bye.
but confirm not a carryout.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
And they did. They said that they were
Right.
going to have a
They did,
deli.
yeah.
Sandwiches.
Yeah, and and they weren't going to be expanding the floor area.
Right. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2017-162, 103 Scott Street was by consent. 2017-164, 3434 through 3462 Wilkins Avenue. I'm a yes with planning department conditions.
Yes.
2017-165, 5800 Chemical Road was postponed. 2017-167, 1909 Bank Street. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2017-169, 2800 East Eager Street was postponed. 2017-172, 522 South Streeper Street was by consent. 2017-173, 139 East North Avenue. I'm a yes.
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 2017-175, 1224 South Highland Avenue. I'm a yes to everything except the fourth floor.
I'm a yes as proposed.
I'm a yes as to everything except the fourth floor.
So, where does that leave him if?
It doesn't matter.
No fourth floor.
No fourth floor. I thought you said as proposed.
He said as proposed, but with the two of us.
With the fourth floor.
Yeah, but with the two of us
Right.
saying no, it doesn't matter.
Because I was fine with the fourth floor.
Okay, so there you go, 2-2. 2017-178, 622 Wallace Avenue. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2017-181, 418 South Clinton Street. I'm a yes as amended with planning's conditions for outdoor table service.
Yes.
Yes.
2017-130 during the 5 o'clock docket. 2017-137, 823 South Linwood Avenue was by consent. 2017-146, 143 West Randall Street. I'm a yes.
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 2017.
Yes with conditions of the minor privilege.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2017-168, 322, 3233 through 3241 O'Donnell Street was postponed. 2017-179, 2800 through 2810 Edison Highway is by consent with planning department conditions. And 2017-180, 207 South Chapel Street, I'm a yes.
Yes. All right, Derek, so we got a new code we will be using the next meeting. Do we leave the old code? You guys have the.
Frame them? We're actually gonna like emboss them in like a lacquer on the wall. Yes, you are welcome to leave your